We've made it. Yes, Steve, we've arrived.
We have arrived. I waited my whole life.
Sorry for the delay, everyone. Welcome to NonSequitur. I'm Kyle Curtis. As always, we have Steve McRae, and David is here with us. David is a little busy back there being David. And also a quick shout out to David McGinnis for all of his help trying to get us out of debate roulette beta and into the actual alpha stage. This is going to be beta 2. We're testing out some new things to see how it runs. So hopefully it can go a little bit smoother than it did the first time. If it's anything to do with our track record, that won't be the case, but we'll take it as it comes nonetheless. If you're wondering, originally we were going to have a discussion on the question, is doubt a virtue, with Ozzy. We had some scheduling conflicts, and we're going to move that to Tuesday at 9 o'clock. So Tuesday we're doing kind of a double header. We'll have the coin talk, which I'm getting ready to discuss here in just a second, at 7, and then we will go immediately into the doubt versus oh, Steve.
Doubt is doubt.
These are the
Hi, my name's Steve. Yeah. Welcome to NonSequitur Show, and we'll be having on Tuesday, doubt is doubt a virtue. By the way, we are not beta males. We're doing beta testing. Make sure we clarify that, okay?
Thank you. Well,
Big
one
difference.
of us is.
Yeah. Tim.
So,
wait,
Steve, do you think
I don't know which way I'm pointing here, right?
Do you think you're right there? Do you think Dave? I act like I'm drunk already, and it's not even Memorial Day. What is wrong with you? Is doubt a virtue, Steve? Is doubt a virtue?
No, it's not. Are you asking me that? No, it's not a virtue.
It is a virtue. I'll explain why Tuesday at 9 o'clock. Okay, so let's go through the next 3 episodes that we have coming up. We will not be doing an episode tomorrow. We are taking Memorial Day off, and so you should go and enjoy your Memorial Day. And let's go ahead and look through a couple of shows that we have coming up. All right, on Tuesday, we are having the discussion on ancient coins and the meanings behind the pictures that are used, the busts that are engraved on them. There's a really cool, interesting story behind these. So join us Tuesday. That's at 7 o'clock Eastern on Tuesday. And then don't forget we have the Is Doubt a Virtue straight after that. And then on Wednesday, we will be having a conversation with Telltale Atheist, Lloyd Evans, and a member of the Jehovah's Witness Church. Actual member, not former. It's very rare that you get these guys to come and have a discussion. So this is going to be a really good talk, and I look forward to that. And then finally, to round out May, we have a talk about the pharaohs of Egypt with Dr. Maggie Bryson. She will be back with us. If you haven't caught that the episode with her yet, please go back and watch that. It was very interesting, and I think this one will be just the same. So those are the next 3 shows that we have coming up. Come join us for that. Okay, now let's get into the debate roulette. Since we had a schedule change, we still wanted to come on air and do something with you guys, and I think this was a perfect opportunity for us to try this out again. The first one went really well, aside from the issues on our end. The conversations were, they were fabulous. They couldn't have gotten any better. I was surprised, weren't you, Steve? That were really good.
Oh, I'll tell you, I'm not just fronting. That was way better than I expected. The people that came on, they talked about the topics. They were engaging. They were informative. Set them high. I'm not scourge anybody, but you guys that are going to come in, I already established show. But you know what? Even if you're not, you don't meet that bar. Come in, have fun. This is just going to be for fun.
Yeah, and I'm expecting a dumpster fire this round. We had too smooth of a first run, so this is going to be the one. So
it's serious. He's a good dumpster fire.
Huh? Oh yeah,
Serious the skeptic. He's a good dumpster fire.
Well, yeah. Let's get them. Let's try to get them where they need to go first, and that's going to be you need to go to Discord. Yeah, you need to be a member of the Discord to come on. Now, in the description, there is a link to, I believe it's Steve. Let me make sure about that. Steve, you did put the vote contact form in the description, right?
I'm doing it right now. No, I did not.
You had one job.
Nobody asked me to.
Okay.
So I'll find it.
Second, in just a second, we will be putting the contact form in the live chat and in the discussion or the description. You'll click that. That will take you through. It's a Google Doc form. It's really quick though. You'll click that. It'll send you to the Discord afterwards. But you'll put your name, which side of the topic that you're on, and then that will put you into a spreadsheet on our end that will help us in choosing the two participants that will come up. While Steve is doing that, let's go ahead and get what our topic's going to be. So here's a new thing we're also trying, the topic wheel. Now we have various topics on this wheel. It will be spun, and then we will go with the one that it selects. So David, let's go ahead and give her a spin.
All right, it's up. You can go click on it now.
We need to dub in a sound effect with this. And David, I'm not looking at my screen, so you'll have to read the topic for me.
I don't think can I read that? I don't know if I can read that. Can you guys see that?
I think it's just a different resolution for us looking at the main screen, Steve.
Yeah, I think so. So we're gonna have to trust David to what it actually says.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Write that down as another kink.
Yeah. Okay, did that stop?
I think so. Oh,
David. It's still going. It's still going. This is why I said let fate pick the topic. Yeah, I can't read that either. Don't feel bad,
well,
guys.
Technically, fate is reading
yes,
choosing the topic.
Oh, and
David, what is
clock? Your clock's more accurate than the wheel.
What did we land on?
I think it stopped, but then it keeps moving again. David? Okay, so what? No, it's moving on the stream, and actually the stream is clearer than what we're seeing here, so I can do both. It's not stopping. I just refresh the browser.
We're talking to David. If you guys are wondering, we're not talking to ourselves.
This is why it's beta 2.0. Just FYI, people. So
yeah. Well, I tell you what, David, just hold it down for a couple seconds and then let it go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, whatever it lands on for like 2 seconds, that's the topic.
Yeah.
There you go. Orange, whatever orange is. This is random because I can't read this. What is orange? Let's do.
Is the Bible infallible?
There you go.
That's what we're going to go with. Is the Bible infallible?
Perfect. Dumpster fire wheel. Good one.
Okay. So we got the topic, guys. It is the Bible infallible? Right. Okay.
NASA designed this wheel for us from flat earthers. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you want to enter, click the link in the description and fill out that form real quick. It'll take you 2 seconds. And then David will go ahead and switch back to the main screen so that Steve and I can. Yep. So
by the way,
while you guys are filling that out, Steve and I will. I guess let's find out a kind of a preview, Steve. Why don't you think that virtue or that doubt is a virtue?
Okay, one sec. Just FYI, you can't find it, people. It says chat form, click here, blue link. So click there, that'll give you a form, and then it'll ask you if you're pro con, and then we'll get from there. Why I don't think doubt is a virtue, because I personally think that virtues are things we strive for. I think that's something that we always try to do. We always want to be honorable. And we always want to be charitable. We always have temperance. We want to have these virtues, which are kind of what's called the golden mean between two vices. In other words, courage would be in between cowardice and recklessness. So we want to strive for that. We don't strive for doubt. Doubt is a tool we use with uncertainty, but it's nothing that we strive. That's nutshell. That's going to be somewhat along my lines of my argument or my position.
Well, and what I kind of planned out to say for my opening response, I'll go ahead and tease you with it so that you can tease. Yes, but I've
pay attention,
out
ladies.
That doubt. What do you mean, ladies?
Yeah, I was gonna say. Well, I mean, I thought, well, the ladies like you too, though. So you don't have to like.
You know nothing about me.
Don't the ladies like you
why
too?
do we even do this? Why do we do this?
I'm disappointed when they find out you're not interested in them.
I've only had one time where that's happened. I was at a bar. I was at a bar drinking one night, and I had some friends that I came there with, and one of them was having issues with his girlfriend, so he left, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna stay. I mean, I was there anyway, just decided to stay, and I got to talking to the bartender, obviously because they all left, and I'm just there, and at the end of the night, she slipped my bill with her number on the top of it and said, you should call me sometime. And so I didn't want, you know how sometimes you give somebody your number and you wonder after like the third day why they're not calling, you're like, because that's always in the back of your mind. Like, I gave them my number. Why aren't they calling me? So I try to avoid that. So I just wanted to.
No, I don't care if people call me. I don't give out my number for that.
Well, I'm just saying,
but yeah, I don't
growing up,
like
that's what number. But I didn't want her to feel that way, So I told her
you had consideration for her.
Yeah, I'm a very considerate when it comes to that. Like, I don't like to send mixed signals or be, just weird to people. And so I told her, I said, I really appreciate this. I'm super flattered, but I'm gay. And she got like mad. Like at first she thought
why would somebody get mad? I don't see why somebody get mad.
I'm gonna tell you why. Because she thought at first, I guess she thinks that
you were flirting
every gay man pronounces the S's and all that. I'm not the stereotypical gay that you think of, but she thought that I was using that as an excuse not to call her. It wound up backfiring on me because she thought that I was just saying that I'm gay, so I wouldn't have to.
Did you show her your videos that you have and all that?
I showed her my gay card, because when we sign up to battle with the gay agenda, when we're trying to put forth the gay agenda, you get a membership card. So it's got like rhinestones and glitter, of course.
You carry that in your wallet.
You have about 5 seconds. You have about 5 seconds left to vote.
Maybe you should develop the gay e-card.
No seconds. I do. That's
that
thing.
might
that
might be a thing. Gay e-card.
But I got sidetracked on that story. I apologize. But I wrote down that doubt is the path to knowledge. If what you believe is true, then doubting it is harmless because further investigation will only confirm you believe. But if what you believe is false, then doubting is necessary if you're ever to find out what's true. So my point is that if you doubt things,
I say my audio's choppy. Just FYI. I'm getting a huge lag here too. I don't know if it's my end or his, because I can't hear him. All right, let me try that. Yeah, hang on.
Okay. All right. So my overall point is that it is something that you should strive for, because let's think about the Jenny McCarthy anti-vaxxers thing. She started that whole thing off of a newspaper article that wound up having to be retracted in the first place. She took it as 100% truth, though, because it was in a newspaper. If she would applied some doubt to that, that wouldn't be the case. And you can say the same for the people after her who followed suit with what she had to say. It would be virtuous of them to have doubted what she said, and you wouldn't have this crazy anti-vaxxer movement that's going on. That original thing that started it all had to be retracted.
Yeah, I can explain why all that actually, I believe it completely wrong. But I guess we're going to have to do that on Tuesday. But in a nutshell, we don't want to strive for things that we want to doubt. We don't want to say, I doubt something that's true, because that's like saying I want to believe something that's false. Belief and doubt are intricately related. Doubt is uncertainty. It's vacillation between two different things, positions, or on a proposition was true or false. We don't really want that. We want to have an actual belief. So we don't go out of a way to say, I want to doubt everything. I don't want to doubt if this is true. I want to find out if this is true, and doubt could be a tool. But we don't say in every circumstances that we want to doubt something. And a virtue is something we always want to do under any given circumstances, at any time, at all times. We want to be virtuous. We want to have these virtues all the time. We don't want to doubt all the time, because that makes you just going to get into epistemic uncertainty. And I mean, there's one thing to be critical, but my positions that I'm going to be talking about on Tuesday is that we don't choose our beliefs. Right? We don't choose our doubts either. You can't will yourself to doubt something anymore. You can to will yourself to believe something. And so we can't have doubt as a virtue if you can't will yourself to doubt something, just like you can't will yourself to believe something. It's something that is just like a dosastic and voluntaryless. You doubt. And so doubt is that uncertainty.
Before we get too far ahead, I take my own story in for account. And this is just a little preview, guys. We're not going to carry on too much about this because we want to save some.
I got some.
Yeah, we'll get into much more detail on Tuesday. Trust us, guys.
Your friendly producer has something to say to the people who voted. You need to go in and recast your votes, because where it says Discord name quite clearly, you need to put your Discord name. You can't put your answer to the question there because and not put a Discord name. We need to have you in Discord because we can't just hand out links into the call. Otherwise, the people who win aren't going to be the people that show up to debate. So that's why people. It's clear as day on the form. So recast your vote.
I saw the form.
I will restart the countdown right now, and we'll do this again. Let's go.
Okay, I'm glad we did this because if you can't even put your name where it's supposed to go, you probably shouldn't be debating.
And you do need to be.
Those were the flat earthers.
You need to be part of our Discord server to participate, and you need to have a working webcam as well, because you will not be talking through Discord. Discord is just how we're going to get you the link in a private fashion. It's to
just FYI, you don't.
Yourself from being doxxed.
You don't have to be on camera. You just have to have a working webcam. Right. So it has to at least detect a webcam. Make that very clear. Because a lot of people may not want to come on camera, which is fine. Yeah.
But Steve, what I was saying is that in my own story, when you said that you can't choose to doubt and you can't choose your beliefs, I would have to disagree there, because I could have, whenever I first saw that video after that youth meeting with Matt Dillahunty that kind of led to where I am now, I could have chose to shake it off and not think about it, but I chose to start to doubt a little bit what I had been told, and that opened up more doubt came in and more doubt came in. But looking back, I could have chosen not to pay it any attention.
Yeah, I think that's choosing being critical. That's not choosing doubt. I can't say I believe that I can fly. By the way, that was top 8 on the charts in like 8. I was the top 10 on the charts in 8 different countries. Popular song. But I believe that I can fly. You're not going to be able to fly. I can't will myself to do that, right? I can't will myself to say I doubt I know 1 + 1 = 2. I know 1 + 1 = 2. No matter how much I try, I can't strive to doubt that. It just I kill myself. But
using doubt.
But criticality, I think, is important. A healthy skepticism is important. There's different skepticism, and I kind of want to that out a little bit on Tuesday if you guys are interested about the different types of skepticism. And there's not just one type that fits all. I tend to go to what's called methodological skepticism, which is how we approach what's true and what's false. And then there's philosophical skepticism, which can we even know knowledge? Can we have knowledge? And so there's different ways you can approach these things. And so I think that Kyle and I probably agree more than what we think we agree on. I think it's just the vernacular. Well, maybe not.
I doubt that.
Well, you think you could? Okay. Well, can you doubt 1 + 1 = 2? Can you try to do it?
That's a pun. That's a pun. On
I doubt.
But
I believe you're right. Wait. Believe now? I don't know.
I think we're using doubt in a completely different context in that, because I don't doubt that 1 + 1 =. Yep, you've got 8 seconds left, guys.
Do we have people that already
1 + 1 = 2? I'm talking about doubting things.
But can you doubt it? But can you? If you said, if I want to doubt myself, well, if you can't,
I don't know. That's not a question.
Do it, then you can't strive for it. You have to be able to serve virtue.
But see, that's not a question that anybody would ever ask. I'm talking about doubting things like, for example, again, that article that came out about originally the anti-vax thing. When you read that, yes, you can choose to doubt that or not. But I don't think you can doubt things like 1 + 1 = 2.
And even that, doubt could be good, but doubt can also, right? Virtues are always good. Well, hang on. Virtues are always good. They're called the golden mean, and they're called the moral excellence. They are the best. Well, that means we always want them. Doubt can be bad. Right. If I have a true thing and I doubt myself, it could end up having harm. I don't always be doubting things that are true. So
when is the time
it
that
doesn't
doubt
fall under
be bad?
Okay. Well, I for example, performances. I mean, if I doubt my ability to do something, I have performance. Right, that's doubt. Right. It's epistemic self-doubt. But there's other things too that even if I've taken a test and I know something and I think to myself, okay, maybe I'm doubting that I know the answer, but I answer. You don't want to always doubt stuff. You don't want friends. You don't want your family. You don't want
at least self-assessment though, and
that's not doubt though. That's not doubt. There's a difference.
I'm saying when you do doubt, it leads to that. Like if you doubt yourself on a performance issue, then doubting yourself is a hell of a lot better than too much self-confidence, because then you'll fall flat on your face. But if you doubt that you're ready, you may train a little bit harder to get there.
Yeah, no, doubt cannot be good. Doubt is a tool, but it's nothing that we strive for all the time. We don't want to go, I want to doubt everything if that's the goal, because we doubt everything continually.
What's the harm though? What's the harm?
Because if you have you have to make a decision thing. If I have a proposition and I say, is the proposition false or is it true? I have vacillations between them and say, I can't determine one or the other. I have an indeterminate position. Then that is doubting. It's doubting both positions. And in some cases, that's fine. I mean, for example, I'm agnostic. I doubt both positions. But I mean, to other things, other propositions, do I want to doubt that the sun will rise tomorrow? No, I don't strive for that. I know.
It may lead you to cross things off your bucket list. My thing is this, like that. What would be the harm? Because all it would lead for you to do is to confirm what you were, what you believed in the first place. Like that's the most harm that can come from doubting.
But I think you're using doubt just to mean assessment, and I think that you're word doubt there for some reason. We should assess propositions. We should critically think about them.
Yeah, but exactly.
But certain things we shouldn't believe. We shouldn't. That's why we shouldn't doubt the truth. That's why doubt cannot be a virtue. Got people. Hey, do we want to know? I can't wait. Is it people we know?
Is it people we know?
This is so exciting.
Okay.
Look, that's pretty badass. Why do they keep saying my shop? I don't know.
Spin the wheel.
Yeah, they say my connection is bad, but it can't be my connection. They say they think my audio is clipping.
Yep. Hold on a second, see if I tell you. And we are going with. Oh, is that Zug Zug? Zug Zug or Zog Zog? Yep, Zug Zug. Interesting name. Oh, Mr. Atheist, you were on here. That would have been cool. Not that you're not cool, Zug Zug. Okay. we are about to put the second wheel up. Only 2 people think that the Bible is infallible. Okay. But only 2 of them. Not a lot of Christians watching tonight, huh?
We have Jammy back. Wow. Jammy thinks it's infallible? Or he thinks it's the infallible, obviously. We flip a coin with this one.
Yep. Oh, there it goes.
I love Jammy, but I wouldn't mind having somebody new, but I guess it's only 2, so it doesn't really matter. And this is for obviously the Bible's not infallible, right?
I'm actually interested to hear.
Yeah, really? Jammy's going to argue that? Wow.
Yeah.
But did he hold that position? I know. I don't think he actually does too. I mean, there's no rule that you have to argue position you hold, is there?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Yeah. Shit, no, I think it's great. I think it's harder. Yeah, I think it's definitely harder to debate something that you do not have a belief in.
Yep.
Not the Bible is inflatable. No.
Well, we'll get them in, and we will see. This is probably going to be another one of our a good one, because Jamie is a master of being a gentleman. So
is my mic less choppy now?
It is. Okay. So we are back to our full screen. While we are getting them in, guys, I'm gonna explain how we're gonna work the format. So when we come on, we're gonna do a 3-minute round of just introducing yourself and stating what your position is. And, if you want to kind of go into a little bit of that within that 3 minutes, that's completely fine. Following that, we will have 2 rounds each with a duration of 5 minutes. And then following that, we will go into a 15-minute open, free-flowing dialogue between each participant.
I'm wondering if Jammy's going to argue. Go ahead.
You'll have to Steve, be patient. Breathe in and breathe out.
Well, you've got a huge lag. It's like you're done, and then all of a sudden more.
Breathe in and breathe out. Are you breathing, Steve? You're not breathing, Steve.
No, I don't breathe.
You don't even care.
I'm not even.
You don't even care.
Exist. I don't exist. That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, you are breaking up a little bit, Steve.
Yeah. See, I'm wondering why. It's just vMix.
Well, and I'll tell you. Yep, and I'll tell you, while it won't really matter here in just a second anyway, because obviously those 2 will be going at it. But okay. Well, hello, sir. Welcome back.
Hey, I gotta mute my YouTube channel. All right.
Where is your poster at, sir? I do not see a poster.
Well, number one, I was told it was crooked, and I just wanted to explain to everybody that while it wasn't level, it definitely was flat. So but I took it down to put up a new one, but I didn't have time. This week's been crazy.
Well, people will not let you get by with anything on YouTube. That's the one thing that I have learned. Like, no matter what you do, people will not let you get away with anything. I haven't changed this clock in 3 years, and I can't tell you how many comments I've gotten with, "You really need to fix the time on your clock, Kyle. It's off." It hasn't been changed in 3 years. So, but good eye, everyone. Good eye. And so we got Jamie back. Jamie was in the very first round of the very first debate roulette that we did on the topic of torture. So, and you're arguing that the Bible is infallible.
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to argue the Bible is infallible, and I'll explain my position when I get into my round. But I don't think it'll surprise you as much as you had said.
Are you going to be on that the Bible is portrayed to be infallible?
No, I'm going to argue that it is infallible.
Okay.
I am interested.
Yeah, it's funny because I had sent an email to Godless Engineer about this very subject, actually. So it's funny that it got brought up tonight.
Interesting.
About possible future show with him. Not to put any pressure. This isn't contractual by me bringing it on the air. I'm not trying to assume that it's going to happen, but
I'm interested now. This is.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Just give me a sec.
Okay.
I do have a webcam. Just let me rejoin.
Dude, is that G? Is that Ganesh? It is, isn't it?
Yeah, that's me.
Oh, what's up, buddy?
Let me just rejoin for a quick second.
How awesome
I love
is this
guy.
How cool is that? Wow, this is gonna be a good. This is gonna be
This is gonna be awesome! Holy shit!
I love it.
I'm actually excited.
I love his voice. That accent is just cool. I think
sexy, ain't it?
Absolutely.
Okay. Wait, okay, there we go.
Okay, so the topic is the Bible infallible? And I guess we will start with Jamie, since he is claiming, surprisingly, that it is. And I cannot wait to hear what Jamie has to say. But guys, we'll do this as 3 rounds. The timer is on the screen, if you follow that. And we will do this. So, Jamie, go ahead and introduce yourself and state your position on the matter.
Hi, yep, I'm Jamie Sislow. Been I'd say a devoted follower of the NonSequitur Show for about the last 2 months. Really, just eager to see where the show's going, and hope. Even tonight, just with the stuff that's been done already with the production, I'm excited. I think that it's gonna be competitive with a lot of more well-known debate channels on YouTube and things like that. So that's the point.
Yes,
I think the format speaks for itself.
But no,
my position. Yeah, via Skype, right? Reach out and touch someone. My position is that I'm going to use the traditional definition of biblical infallibility, which is the belief that what the Bible says regarding matters of faith and Christian practice is wholly useful and true, and that the belief it's the belief that the Bible is completely trustworthy as a guide to salvation and the life of faith of Christians, and will not fail to accomplish its purpose. I am not saying that the Bible is inerrant, nor am I saying it is inspired by God, nor am I saying it is a great source for morality or advice for life. I'm purely saying that the Bible is infallible because it serves its purpose to promote Christianity and provide a guide to salvation under that belief. If it wasn't serving its purpose, we wouldn't have as many Christians in the world as we do today. I promised myself I wouldn't laugh nervously. Like I said, I think the proof is in the pudding. We have, while Christianity isn't the number one religion in terms of volume of numbers of believers, obviously Islam and Judaism would be a larger set, but the Christianity has numerous sects and denominations, and they all continue to push you back towards using the Bible as some form of a fundamental starting point in your belief. And I think that, I'm not going to say I think, I know from just personal experience that with some wordsmithing, a little bit of resting, a little bit of interpretation, that you can make the Bible hold it to itself quite reliably. If somebody says, I'm not sure if Jesus really did die for my sins, or I'm not sure if there's the rapture is pre-tribulation or post-tribulation, or depending on who you're talking to, can use the Bible to get you to that conclusion that they believe. And in that sense, I'm saying that it's infallible. That it serves its purpose to guide you towards salvation and to basically live the Christian life. How am I doing on time?
Wow.
Okay.
That was perfect. Right on the money. Okay, awesome. And just so that you know, Jamie, Steve and I are also too. Can't wait to find out where the show ends up, because it goes from day to day. We never know. We depending on what show it is, it has, you have no clue which direction it's going to go.
It doesn't follow logically at all.
We love
Yeah,
the
exactly.
internetcy and non sequitur of it. Yes.
That's why the name. That's why it's the name. It doesn't follow. So, okay, Ganesh.
Hey,
I'm fanboying out. Sorry.
I know we have two of our
no
favorite
problem.
people here.
Thank you. So
Okay, Ganesh.
yeah, Steve has said my name to the world. I run a Twitch channel, mainly focused on gaming. Twitch.tv/Zugzug. I work in the gaming industry, so that is my main profession. I'm a game developer, and I work in software on the side. But this is more of a curiosity for me. So do not expect any theological debates. I'm just another curious observer in this point. So going back to the topic at hand, um, I just want to point out the first point that was said here. He said that the Bible by itself is not inerrant or infallible, and there goes the whole thing. The topic at hand is the Bible infallible, not whether it can be interpreted or whether it can be observed in a way or understood in a way that is to be infallible. No, if it is infallible, it should be infallible to everybody who says it. 1 + 1 is 2. That's it. You don't need to interpret mathematical laws in any way to make it to be infallible. So if you are going to narrow the definition of infallible, then that sort of turns the whole debate topic on its head. Can anything be interpreted to be consistent in and of itself? Of course. Every book, every work of fiction has its own consistent internal world rules. That is the ground rule for any work of fiction or any work for that matter. If it is a work of journalism, then you have to back up your claims with facts and investigation. If it is a work of autobiography, then it has to be the life experiences of that particular person, and so on and so forth. So, yes, you can make any book infallible, or any work for that matter infallible, by interpreting or wordsmithing, to borrow a phrase that was used here. But the problem is that throws away the definition of the word infallible. That is not what we are here to debate. So, while yes, I do agree that for people who believe in Christianity, it could provide a path to salvation. The proof is in the pudding, as he said. But that applies to religion at hand. That applies to Star Wars. You can have a religious sect in Star Wars. That doesn't mean Star Wars and Jedi's are real, or that Star Wars isn't by itself infallible. We have the prequels to show that's not the case. You know, Jar Jar is the point at hand. So if we are gonna debate the point at hand, then we shouldn't change the definition of the words. It is that simple.
And that's time. Yep. We'll have to stop you right there. That's time on your end. Okay. Now we're going to move into the 5-minute rounds, guys, and this will be where you make your go kind of deeper into your point, and then we'll get it back and forth going that way. There are 2 rounds of these. So, Jamie, first one is up to you. How do you respond to what Ganesh said?
Yeah, basically, I just start when saying I don't think I'm changing the definition at all. I mean, I think that's the formal definition of infallibility. I think it gets confused with inerrant or having falsehoods where that can be proven to not be true to our reality. And I also think there's some confusion there with the general consensus on infallibility. That means that they find that the Bible just maybe was translated incorrectly, or like a translation error. But to the point, like you brought up that you can get a religious following in anything. I agree with that totally. The word canon, I mean, people bring that up about Star Wars. Look at the outcry that happened when Disney said, you know what, all that extended universe stuff is gone. We're not gonna use that as part of our canon. And people say, but you've already had it. And that's what I would say. I would say, if we went back to George Lucas and we said, give us your original scripts, kind of like how people interpret the Constitution. A lot of people, and obviously our Supreme Court in the United States does as well. They'll say, let's go through the Federalist Papers. Let's look at transcripts of debates that took place on the floor during the Continental Congress. Let's get into the heads of these people, and diehard Star Wars fans that were really into the expanded universe, said the same thing. What did George Lucas? What was his notes? What was done during the production and the pre-production phases? How do we know where the story should be? Can we, the who shot first thing didn't just line up with the lasers, even though it was corrected later. And that's my point, is these corrections take place. Yes, the entire thing is fictional and nobody should believe that it's real. It's fantasy. But you can have a diehard following because of the writings and because there isn't contradictions, in the sense of we are getting our core fundamental beliefs from this document. So it's the same thing with Christianity. I don't believe personally, following Steve's philosophical advice here, I'm going to say I believe that there is no good reason to support Christianity from a reality. I'm not going to define myself by my non-beliefs. He'll know what I mean by that. But I think that Christianity has such a strong following because they started from the book, a single point of written record. Whether if it's you go all the way back to the Textus Receptus, or even farther back to the earlier manuscripts that were, Masoretic, Sinaiticus, those manuscripts. Somebody had it in their language at a time, and they developed a cult following, if you will. I don't mean cult to insult anyone's religion. I just mean the idea that it's a mob effect. That happened, and it was because of writings. That's what made it perpetual. That's what propagated that belief. It didn't word of mouth as well. But again, somebody says, how do I know that? Where can you point me in the right direction? These writings. And for that reason, I think that, again, it holds to my original definition at the beginning here, was that it is a guide to salvation and the life of faith, and will not fail to accomplish its purpose. The last thing I was going to just make a point on real quick is that, I don't believe that the Bible is the only thing. I've said this in my own private conversations about this topic, is that, Christianity or any type of religious belief is a mega belief. It requires multiple pillars to be supported. It requires logical arguments in the sense of purely philosophical logical arguments. It involves usually a creation account or some type of, I guess I'll leave it at that. And then some kind of writing, the Bible in the sense for Christianity, other believers, prayer, the question of morality, why be good if there is no God, kind of thing. And then just personal experiences. And until all of those pillars are knocked down, a person's going to have a hard time deconverting. And this seems to be, from the studies that I've read about, the hardest pillars to bring down is the Bible, in the sense that this is a place I can go to learn about my salvation, and just the camaraderie effect of just other believers and people's personal experiences, and just that reinforcing it. Usually you can knock down logical arguments and the creation account. We have Christians who are evolutionists. You can knock down prayer. Somebody say, I just gave up on prayer, it just wasn't being answered, or I found morality a different way. But when it comes to Bible or personal experience, that's where it is. All right.
Okay.
He gives up the balance of his time.
Before we go to Ganesh real quick, we will be doing a second one of these following this round. So if you are interested in being a part of that, go ahead and get ready. These are going to be shorter rounds from last time, so we'll be able to compact more in. I think we're only going to get to 2 tonight, I think. But when we start doing them, each week, we'll try to get 3 in. So, all right, Zug.
Hey, thank you. Okay, let's start with each point. First, he said infallible is different from inerrant. I would like to break down the word infallible if you like. Fallible is to be wrong. Infallible means cannot be wrong. So I don't see the other definition that you're implying. I would agree that while you may not be outright changing the definition. You're at least narrowing the word or the topic of the debate, if you will, to a particular focus that you have at hand. But again, I'd like to drag you back to the whole thing. It is not about whether the Bible can be interpreted infallibly, whether the Bible is infallible. And as you have admitted, parts of the Bible can be knocked down: creation account, flood myth, so on and so forth. The only thing that you say that we'll be going for in the Bible is whether it is a path to salvation, and that it does provide a path to salvation. But again, the problem is we have to take it on faith. Faith is not a thing that you always have evidence to knock it down. I can believe in ghosts. I have faith that ghosts exist. I've had experiences back home where ghosts have, I mean, people going hysterical because of ghosts. I mean, I would be fair enough taking that on faith. But again, going back to the even your definition of whether the Bible is infallible, it provides a path to salvation. And even then, you still have to concede the point that it requires certain wordsmithing and interpretation to suit that particular point or to suit that particular need. If you can interpret anything in a way you wish, then you can interpret it infallibly. That's the point. It shouldn't be infallible because it can be interpreted. It should be infallible, period. I can interpret anything to be infallible. I mean, to be infallible. I can say the statement that, again, going back to the Star Wars example, that the prequels are the best cinema ever, period. And I can interpret them in any way. You know, the whole Darth Jar Jar Binks theory. I can use that as a statement to support that. I can interpret anything and everything in a way that it becomes infallible. But that is not the way we arrive at truth. The core way we arrive at truth is it has to be supported by evidence. It has to be uh, it has to stand up to repeated testing, observation, and it has to prove itself repeatedly, irrespective of the observer. If you bring in the observer to be interpreted, then it immediately becomes subjective. Anything can be subjective by definition, cannot be infallible, because if you can interpret it in any way, then yeah, if you throw objectivity out the window, then of course everything can be infallible. That's the problem. And uh, going back to another point that you said, the pillars of Christianity, like everything that can be knocked out, but Bible is the one that is the hardest to knock down. You considered again there that, for example, you can knock down the creation myth, you can knock down certain parts of Jesus' life, you can knock down the miracles, you can knock down Moses parting of the Red Sea, you can knock down the flood myth. That's all in the Bible. So if you can knock down major portions of it, then the only thing that you still have left is something that you believe purely based on faith. And the only reason that you're believing is because at this point, that is what you're holding on to. While we may not know it right now, then that hinges on the assumption that there is something for you to be saved from, that there is a need for salvation, which again goes back to your whole reason for believing in Christianity, that there is this book that says this happened, so you need to be saved. The Son of God came to earth and he sacrificed himself for your sins, so you need to be saved from this. So how do you prove that is true? Not by any external evidence or anything. You believe it, you have to go back to the Bible to prove it again. The problem is,
20 seconds.
first you have to prove that. Okay, so I think I'll cut off my point right there. I think that should, the point here is, even if you narrow the definition of the word infallible, you still have to concede that the Bible in and of itself as a whole is not infallible. That's just not the topic here.
Okay. All right. That's timed perfectly. Okay. We're going to go into the final round before the discussion. And Jamie, this next 5 minutes is for you.
Yeah. Well, like I said, when I said that the Bible is one of the hardest things to be knocked down, one of the last pillars to go, between street epistemology and leaving Bibles and hotel dressers, while the Gideons leave whole Bibles, there's a lot of hotels. I travel all over the place all the time, and I'm seeing more and more and more over the last 10 years just New Testaments left in hotel rooms. I'll go to a baseball game and there's a guy just pass me a New Testament. I'll see Christians that are knocking on doors, doing the 2x2, if you will. They'll pull out a New Testament, pocket edition. And where I'm going at that is there's, and again, I don't have the experience of every single, there's billions of people in the world. I'm not trying to at all imply that I know everyone's life here and have omniscience into everyone's household, but from my limited experience, I've seen a big push towards okay, we can let go of the creation myth. We can concede that it is a myth. It doesn't have to be that God said let there be light. We can look at that as a metaphor and kind of poetically to get to the fact. But what you won't convince these people is that Jesus died for no reason whatsoever. And when you say, how do you know Jesus died for your sins? They're going to point you to John 3:16. It comes back to a written scripture. And that's my point is, I guess we disagree on the definition of infallibility. I don't disagree with you that people use that word to mean those things. I think from a useful case, it is used that way. I'm going with a very formal definition. It's just Bible has many properties to it. It's, in my personal opinion, I don't believe in it as a source for my salvation or anything like that. I would guess I'm more of a I prefer with the experts, the biblical scholars, the people who have studied this, that look into the history and they tell me the correct interpretations. But where was I going with this? It's following people who actually do have a real belief in what the Bible has to say. Seems to focus first on the New Testament. I know from the days when I was reading the Bible quite adamantly that Peter said that that they are babes desiring milk, and then later in First Peter it says about the strong meat. That it gives strong meat, and there's like this comparison between the Gospels of the Bible as the milk for the newborn Christian, and then the deeper parts of the Bible, the prophets and the revelation and those things are for Christians who have graduated farther on in life and matured more in their beliefs and their faith. And so it's just that idea is that you just need the sincere milk of the word, is that idea that Jesus died for our sins using the Bible's text. So in that sense, I say it's infallible, that it serves the purpose. Kyle, to be honest with you, I think I don't have much more to contribute. I think I'd just be boring people if I talk for the next minute and a half.
Okay, fine. Awesome. We've actually decided if you guys want for the 15-minute discussion, if you want, only have about 10 minutes, because I think as well, both of you probably may not have that much more to add in this, and we don't want to feel like you have to fill in the space. So if you let Ganesh take is 5 more minutes, and then if you guys want to have a back and forth for like 10 minutes instead of 15, that's fine. Is that cool? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. No problem.
Don't feel like you have to fill in extra time. Okay. The last 5 minutes is for you, Zug Zug.
Yeah. Thank you. So I think I would agree with you on that, but we are not going to agree on the word infallible or the usage here. So I will concede, and it will be a change of topic, but I'd be agreeing to use your definition of the word infallible here. And even if we go with that, that it provides what the young or the new Christians need, the nurturing milk, as you called it. The problem is the religion is based entirely on this one book that is composed of the various gospels. So when you base something, when that is the foundation of your belief, of course, you're going to get an infallible, or you're going to get it. That is the entire purpose. It is to be set as the guiding map or the whole roadmap for every Christian. So it's just serving its purpose. So you cannot take something that serves its purpose and say that it is infallible. For example, you cannot take a road like Google Earth or a road map that has extremely good data when it comes to US, but completely shitty data when it comes to third world countries or remote areas, and say this is infallible. Yes, it serves your purpose in that one particular part. But if that is all you're looking at, again, it goes back to the whole interpretation thing. Yes, your definition of the word infallible is I am looking at this to provide me with this. It serves its purpose, so it's infallible. Again, you're just changing things around here. It just serves its purpose. That's it. But it still doesn't ascertain whether that the purpose itself is true or whether the foundation itself is true. It doesn't serve you on anything else. Again, going back to the whole salvation point. You personally said you do not believe in salvation, and again the whole push about the New Testament thing. But even among Christians, that is not widely accepted. You would acknowledge that. There are people who interpret or reinterpret science to fit the whole creation myth or Noah's flood into it. So they would disagree with your definition of infallible. Again, this is just in between different Christians. So we cannot bring in personal definitions here when we are discussing on such a wide topic. Like we are not addressing personally whether this is the it serves me, it is infallible to me because this is the purpose I use it for, and this is the purpose it does. Okay, the problem again, if you take Buddha's teachings, they are pretty much in line with what Jesus taught. The only difference is he doesn't bring in Yahweh or that he didn't die for your sins. That is the difference. So yes, I know I'm never going to probably convince people that Jesus died for no reason, but the problem is the Bible says that Jesus died for our sins, and that begs the question: is there any sin to die for? That is the whole root cause that we have to go back to. I mean, if you take a look at it for that particular purpose, yes, you can say, okay, Jesus died for my sins. I believe in him. I trust Jesus to lead my life, and then I'll be saved. Okay, but you're ignoring the root here of whether there is a need for us to be saved. Bible says yes. Why? Because of the original sin. We know Adam and Eve did not exist. So again, even if you go to the root of from your definition of infallibility, it ends up being fallible. If there is no Adam and sin, there is no original sin, then there is no need for Jesus, then there is no need for you to be saved. Everything collapses even with your definition of infallible. So that is the reason why I kept going back to the definition at hand. The original definition of the word as it is described. Is it inerrant? If it is the word of God that we have to base our entire worldview on, then I'm sorry, it is not infallible. It doesn't hold up to reality. It doesn't even hold up to logic or science. So that's just the way things are.
I'm sorry, Ganesh. I didn't mean to cut you off there. I thought you were finished.
Yeah, that's fine. No, that's fine.
And time.
I apologize. Okay, so now we're going to go into a 10-minute discussion between the two of you, where you can either ask each other questions or respond to the things that each other has said. And since Ganesh just went, Jamie, we'll start with you in whichever direction that you'd like to take it.
Yeah, I'll kind of do both. One is, I feel like, excuse me, there's a little bit of pressure on me tonight to do well because there was only two of us in the pot to be drawn for the debate.
You're doing great.
And,
yeah.
So I hope I'm not letting the other person down. You know, if they're screaming at their screen right now,
just
going,
Ganesh,
you forgot to say this.
Oh, the other guy, but he's pissed.
Yeah, the other guy. Yeah,
he's actually a theist.
I mean, dude, there is no need for you to let me down. Like it's like I'm a nobody. That's it.
Oh yes, you
yeah,
are.
But
oh goodness, I was fanboying for you, buddy. Come on.
The other thing I was going to say is when you gave the analogy for Google Maps, you know, I kind of thought to myself, Well, if Google is saying that their purpose is to really provide good maps for the US and they're going to help out other people if they can, then I would say, using your analogy, the Bible definitely is infallible, because Christians will tell you it's meant just for Christians. It's while it's a book for the world, it's specifically geared towards believers. And that, that's why a lot of times you'll see that God gave them over to a reprobate mind and confounded the wise and those types of things, is, even though the scriptures are right there for everybody to believe. Now, again, I'm going by that from that point of view, not my own. But so I kind of chuckled when you said, Google Maps, stinks on this side of the world. It's like, yeah, it's just like, Islam is doing far better over on that side of the world than Christianity is. But other than that, one of the questions I want to ask you is just, if you had a background in biblical learning, or if you've been, if I don't know what your exact beliefs, but just tell me a little bit about your religious background and how you came to the position that you have.
No, I do not have any theological background. So yeah, I would not even call myself an experienced or an expert when it comes to Christianity or world religions. I was raised a Hindu. I sort of drifted. I was more of universalist, if I can call it that term. So that was more of where I landed as I moved on with my life, and later, as I searched or explored everything and widened my spectrum, I came interest on the agnostic spectrum. I became an agnostic later in life, and that is what I am right now. And going back to the point that you just made, I'm actually curious. Does the Bible say that it is actually just the book for believers, or that it is the Word of God?
I think the way you
Or
asked that
it is the
question,
Word of God that is. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, if you got more to add, because the way you asked that question to me was a little bit loaded. It sounds like you're giving me this. It can only be.
Okay.
I would say it's
no.
both.
Okay,
It's
then
that it's the
then
Word
let
of
me
God
rephrase
and
that.
that it's for believers.
Okay, then let me rephrase that.
Sure.
If someone has to, let's say, become a Christian, what would be their go-to, or what would be their guiding principle, or like what would be their guide? Would it be the Bible, or would it be something else?
I think again, from my limited experience, I think a person can learn how to be a Christian from numerous sources, but eventually one of those sources, or all of them, will go back to the Bible, whether that is original manuscripts or the English versions that we have, or you're eventually going to get to the Scripture. When I say that it's written for believers, again, I'm not promoting any individual belief, as far as like, this isn't a Calvinist discussion, or with predestination or anything like that. What I just mean is that two things. I believe the Bible makes it clear, just reading an English version, the Bible makes it clear that the way to salvation is the Word of God, that you need the actual words. Jesus says, that it's the bread of life, that you won't be sustained by actual real bread, but by the bread of life, meaning the Word of God. So, again, whether you believe that's real or false, that's not my point. My point is, can I grab the Bible and just from it alone find the path to salvation? And I think it does a great job at that. It's the actual Word of God. So I've heard other churches that I've visited in my life say things like, if you have the wrong translation, if you don't have the KJV, excuse me, then you can't get saved, because that's the only Word of God. The rest are copies, or and while that's a very extreme position, and obviously that's not my personal belief, I've heard that. And when you say, how did you get there? They take a very literal, plain language only interpretation of a specific translation, but they're still telling you they got it from the Bible. They're not saying a Bible. That's the thing. It's like, if somebody holds up a sign that says John 3:16, if you were to ask them, where is that? They say the Bible. So it's That's all my point was. And the other thing I was going to add real quick too, maybe clarify something, is anytime I've been in a church that will stress from the pulpit that the Bible is infallible, they will actually put it in with a list of adjectives. They'll say the Bible is infallible, inerrant, pure, inspired. They don't separate them out. Well, maybe they're just going crazy with the superlatives. I think they understand it as it's infallible. That's one purpose. It's inerrant. That's another. Now, I don't agree that it's inerrant, but I definitely agree that it's infallible.
Okay, and that goes back to the original question at hand. Anything that is based off something, if you go to the root of it, it by definition becomes infallible. For example, if you define one as, you have the definition for one, and you have the definition for equals, and you have the definition for two. If you say 1 plus 1 equals 2, based on these definitions of 1 equals and 2, then they become infallible. Again, it all has to do with how you define infallibility. Going back to the root of the discussion, yes, personally, you can interpret it to be infallible. You can interpret it as a book for believers that shows you the path to salvation. But that is not the definition of the word infallible at play. Even if I do concede that, again, going back to the point, and I'd really like you to address it, that it is a book for believers and that it provides me the path to salvation. And by the Bible, wouldn't you agree that the path to salvation is by believing in Jesus? Isn't that what the Bible says? And why is there a need for us to be saved? Because everybody suffers from original sin. So what is the original sin? How did it come to be? Goes back to Adam and Eve, which we know for a fact did not happen.
2 minutes, guys.
So even if it is salvation, then I would really like you to address it. Yes, it provides you the path to salvation, but what it is saying for you to be saved from doesn't exist. So what are you being saved from? What salvation is at the goal here? I would really like you to address this, please.
Yeah, I think that it's while you can study that out, that becomes very theological, right? It becomes a theological discussion. We can study out what sin is using the Bible alone, and that's where it starts to fall apart when you compare it to what we know of the world today, as far as history, anthropology, or geology, just all these sects of science that have, if you will, shown that the Bible might not be as factually correct as it's been held to for, hundreds of years.
No.
Thousands.
See, no. I'm not going. No, I'm not going there. So again, this is the root cause. So even with your definition, the salvation is from original sin, correct? We could not.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to address. There are people I know personally who do not believe that they are saved from original sin. They just go by this alone. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. They just go, I want the everlasting life. I don't want to perish. I want to believe in the son. No connection to sin at all. Now people would say, but you need to repent. But again, we're talking about just, does the Bible have a purpose for salvation and faith? And I'm saying that with just a single scripture alone, you could get to the core tenet of Christianity.
10 seconds.
And again, there's lots of them.
Yeah, I don't think I can address this in 5 seconds. We can probably pick this up at a later time.
Yeah,
I think that should be fine.
That was great.
You know what? I'm just going to tell you this. I give the win to GCat.
To
no
who?
one. To GCat.
Who is that?
G-Man's cat.
Oh,
gosh.
gosh.
Wow, I had to
you were
explain that
on
one.
Okay, that makes
Yes,
sense. You were on that?
He was totally
Okay.
in on that.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was
No,
one he
that was one of the most memorable lives. I mean,
So
that
we declare
picture
this
of that
winner
cat
of
will
the-
stay with me till I die.
of round one G-Chat or G-Cat. I cannot speak tonight. I have been doing this all night long. I go to say one word and I say a completely different.
Just
Like
just
and I'm
call
not
me
drunk
G.
at the
That's
moment.
fine.
Aaron? Yeah.
Gee, yeah. But anyway, thank you guys both. That was fantastic. I'm really hoping that the next round is going to be my dumpster fire. I have been waiting patiently since
Hopefully.
show 1 for a dumpster fire. So let's see if we can't make that happen. We're going to say goodbye to both of you guys now. Once again, thank you both. That was fantastic. And
Kyle,
we're getting ready to
real
go.
quick.
Sure, yeah.
I just want to say that now that it's late night, I'm going to be making a trip to Walmart after hours.
Nice. I mean, well, make sure you watch the next 3 minutes while we get new people, because during the interim, we're going to be talking. Kyle and I are going to talk about you two. So make sure you're listening, because I want to talk about you two. So
just
I want to throw
you
my
say
2 cents
hi
in like
to
I
the
usually do.
lady
But
in the curlers. Make sure you say hi to the lady who still has curlers in her hair. Make sure that you don't get involved with the man who is spanking his kid that's attached to a leash. And number 3, say hey to time or wisdom vendor for me. Send him
and watch out for traps. Watch out for traps.
Okay,
all right,
guys,
so we're going to
thank
spin the
you.
wheel. We're going to get more people. Thank you too. We'll talk about a little bit
Let's
about
bring
your
the wheel up.
discussion. Let's bring the wheel, and let's get 2 more people, and then we'll talk about it while waiting for
Thank
them
you,
to come
Steve.
in.
Thank you, Kyle.
guys-
And thank you for the
you,
wonderful
guys.
debate. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Okay. I need Vanna White now to spin the wheel.
No, Vanna would turn the letters.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Doing it with shows.
The contestant spun the wheel.
Jesus. Literally. Okay. Did we go to the moon?
Is that what it landed on?
Yep.
Wow. Dumpster fire incoming. Let's get Betty Von Velsen.
Give me. Okay, here we go. This is going to be fantastic. Did we go to the moon, everybody?
It's going to be so bad.
So,
all right, so while they're voting,
link, and oh, hey, Jamie. Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, they're going.
So we're gonna get 2 more names. Go to the video description, get the link, put your names in, and we'll get going on that. So real quick, oh, by the way, you're welcome, Ganesh, very much. Thank you for coming in. And you can find him on Zug_Zug on Twitter and Twitch. So people were asking earlier for his contact information. I don't think he has a YouTube channel, but he is on Twitter. So
go subscribe. Okay. And so, Steve, I think you had some things that you wanted to follow up that.
Yeah, I'm just going to keep it really, really short. On this particular one, I am going to side with Ganesh, and let me explain why. There is a difference between infallible and inerrant. Infallible basically means that it cannot be wrong, and inerrant means it is not wrong. It is error-free. There's a difference. So when you're saying that the Bible is infallible, if there's something in there that is wrong, if it is purporting something that is not correct, infallibility goes out the window, and say in this case inerrancy too, because it's claiming to be both. It cannot. Inerrant just means that it doesn't have any errors in the book. We know that's not true, so it is not inerrant. Is it infallible, meaning it cannot make a mistake? And I don't think I disagree with him on. I personally wouldn't say 1 + 1 = 2 is infallible. I think infallibility has to do with a method or something more comprehensive. Is this infallible? Is this approach to knowledge infallible or fallible? And the Bible has fallibility to it. There's things in it that are just not the case. So I think the Bible is not infallible. I think if somebody wants to argue the message is, like salvational message, if that's the case that Jamie was going, that he's saying that the message is supposed to be infallible from a Christian standpoint of view, that's fine. But the issue I have with that is then you have to demonstrate that is actually infallible message and not just one that's made up. What about you, Kyle? What do you think?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There
1 minute. There we go.
I'm just kidding. 1 minute left, and then I'll say what I think.
Do you think the Bible's fallible?
Do I think it's fallible? Absolutely.
Okay.
But I can also see certain things on his side too. I think that he had a couple points, like for the way that they're using it. Yes. Now, if you're talking about the definition of infallible, does it apply to the Bible? I don't think so. But I think he was saying that for the way that they use it, it kind of does. I can see that in a way. But no, I think it's definitely fallible. I think the whole thing is fallible.
Oh, there you go. So you're going to side with Ganesh on this particular one, although I think Jamie did exceptionally well. So
I can't side with anyone.
Oh, come on! Well, you did. You side with the position that the Bible is not infallible. Now you could say that they argued equally as well, and I agree with that.
Which they did, but I do not. I do think the Bible isn't infallible. Okay, the 3 minutes is up, guys. That means that voting is now closed. We will put together the next two wheels to find out who will be debating next. And guys, just to tell you, when we start this next Saturday, this coming up Saturday, huh?
They're all we have nobody dissenting. That was a problem. I was kind of like wondering.
Well, that's okay. Nobody wants to argue that we didn't go to the moon. So let's put that wheel, that big beautiful wheel, back up there one more time.
All right, sounds good. Redo. Unless Kyle, do you want to take that opposite position?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that'd be hard. That's a hard one to fake. I mean, obviously, I think when you most of us have some kind of debating training. I had some in college when I did speech class, but it is very difficult. It is very difficult to take a position that you don't hold.
Flat?
Well, that's going to be the same thing, I think. Yeah, that's gonna. If we didn't get anybody from the moon landing, we're not going to get anybody for that one. I don't think.
I don't know. We might have some flat.
We could try. I mean, do you want to waste another time on it? Because look at it. I would think that there's any flat earthers out there that want to be on this, they would have picked up on the new moon landing.
Maybe it just didn't stop.
Ganesh says I could take a stab at saying no. We're gonna try to get some new people, at least for this episode.
Okay, what is that green right there? Can you? What does that say?
Godless engineer wants to descent the moon, but I think we're gonna. I mean, again, you don't have to hold the division.
No, Dave. Hold on 1 second, Steve. What is that? What is that landed on now, Dave? I can't read it on my screen.
I can't either. What's the light green?
What's that light green one?
Yeah. Ooh, I like that one.
Okay, can you be good without God? There we go. I was really hoping to get the.
Well, I mean, Ghana said he would do it. Ghana's in here.
Well,
that would be a dumpster. Him already arguing that the moon landing didn't happen. Yeah, it's okay.
Okay, so the 3 minute has started. Yeah, I wish we'd have caught that sooner, because I would definitely love to see that. I want a dumpster fire. So if you are a crazy Christian, you get bumped up to the top of the line on this.
We'll give you a little bump if you're a crazy Christian. I'm fine with that. I want this to be random, but so if you have two crazy Christians, that's better, because that way we get this randomized between them. But we'll bump you up a little bit. Can we ask if there's any crazy Christians in it? I don't know.
I don't know how we'll do that on a wheel, but
if you're a crazy Christian, press 1. Like and subscribe.
I'm kidding, guys. You're all crazy.
They're watching this, so yeah.
But what was I getting ready to talk about before we?
Can you be good without God?
No, I was getting ready to say something profound, something epic, something that nobody's ever heard before, yet it would have changed their entire life. Just can't remember what it was.
Damn, yeah. I have that all the time. It's called an epiphany.
But let's talk about, in this minute and a half that we have left,
sure, let's go with that. Well, I'll tell you what. Actually, I like this one. Prophet of Cthulhu said, "Can God be good without? Can God be good without us?" That's an interesting question, actually.
That sounds very deep.
That's profound. I like that. Yeah, we like it deep.
Oh, stop, Steve.
I watched the video on that. I watched the video. 11 seconds.
Of 11 o'clock at night.
That was the name of my beta porn film.
1 minute, guys. That's a lot of. There's a lot of people, Steve, watching for Sunday night, I think.
Yeah, well, it's early in Pacific time.
That's a good time. Oh yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, you have about 45 seconds left. This will be the last round that we do tonight. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about. Okay, so the official launch of Debate Roulette with, all the bells and whistles and everything that how it's supposed to be is going to be this coming Saturday. Or not this Saturday. I'm sorry. Excuse me. The next Saturday. This Saturday is where's my list? One second, guys. I'm getting confused here. This Saturday is Greater Sapien.
Yes. Which, by the way, people have been asking me and Kyle both repeatedly for Greater Sapiens. So you don't need to ask any longer because we got him. So
finally got him. He will be this Saturday, and then the next Saturday will be the official launch of Debate Roulette, and that will be where we actually have winners chosen, and you will be put in the tournament bracket that's going to take place over the summer. So it's going to be the summer of Debate Roulette. What? Were you going to say something, Steve?
No, go ahead.
Are you okay, Steve?
Sure.
I think so.
I have no idea. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just listening to you.
Maybe your mic. It may be your mic. It's starting to clip again, and I thought you were getting ready to say something. So maybe your audio. Okay, debating or the voting's closed. Hopefully, we have people that are taking both sides this go round, and we'll get the wheel together here in just a second, and then we will spin to see who is coming up next. But yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say something. The people are asking about my porno movie. You guys would be severely disappointed in it. It's literally like 2 hours of me begging. That's it. There's nothing more than that. So don't worry about it. It's just me begging. Hey, it's a Jewish thing.
Hold on. Who is asking for your porno tape, Steve?
Who isn't asking for my porno tape? Please.
Come on. I could be counted on that list. Okay, well, that makes it.
Well, I guess that narrows it down, right?
Yeah. Okay, cool. One wheel spin, and one guy wins by default. So, what's the other guy's name?
By default. Okay, pragmatic. He's a theist.
Oh, he was supposed to be. Yeah, he was going to be in the last one if he would have won. Okay, let's spin the wheel.
Oh, I'm partial here. I gotta go. Come on, Mr. Atheist. I'm pulling for you, buddy. I was on Mr. Atheist channels tonight, and by the way, if you haven't checked it out, go check out his channel. It's really good. I really enjoyed myself talking to him and his friends on Mr. Atheist's YouTube channel. There's your shout out. You can pay me for that later.
Oh,
can we just get one of those life wheels or something? Spin it, just put names on 1 to 10 and spin it like the game of life.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah. Mr. Atheist. They're still talking about pornos in the live chat. You people are sick, man. That's it.
We're gonna fix this wheel issue, guys. Hold on 1 second.
There you go, Mr. Atheist.
There
you go. Awesome.
Okay, so
we'll fix it. We'll fix it later.
Wish.
So let's get. Yeah, you got
your wish.
There you go. Prayer works. There you go.
Okay.
Well, this would be fun.
Maybe they need to.
By the way, his name's Mr. Atheist, but he's actually a theist. So that's weird. No, I'm just kidding.
Wait, what?
No, he's not really a theist. I'm just kidding.
Oh, I was about to be really confused.
That would have been really awesome, though. What a great name that would be for somebody who's a theist, Mr. Atheist, who believes in God.
Well, he's got me and Logic going to be on his show next week, and
You're gonna
that
love
would be
it.
kind of awkward for him, I think, if he was a theist, having two really really opinionated anti-theists on there. I think would be kind of awkward for him.
He's got me hooked saying like and subscribe. You know, it's funny was I just was telling him I was like, dude, we got to get on NonSec. We got to get you on NonSec. And guess what? NonSec prayer been answered. There you go. Believe in God.
Yeah, he's gonna come on here in an actual like back and forth discussion capacity.
This is gonna be great. I think this is an awesome subject. Actually, can you be good without God? Because obviously, going into this, I'm already predisposed to say, of course, my position on this. Yes, of course, you be good.
Actually,
but
you're agnostic, so you're not have an opinion.
Which means that means I do have an opinion on it. It means that I can formulate either one. And obviously, if God existed, I wouldn't be agnostic any longer to be a theist. So I can definitely say you can be good without God because I don't believe in God. So I am curious about what the. Yeah, I'm the one that doesn't know how it works.
Well,
I think that
if P equals Q,
you would explain to me about agnosticism. Yeah,
how do I change my input device?
Agnostics don't believe in God, believe it or not. But okay, who's that? I heard a voice.
This is Jimmy, Mr. Atheist.
Hey, Jimmy.
I just can't figure out how to get my camera on with this particular
You're the tech
program.
guy. You're the one that's
I
like
know,
the
right?
audio tech guy.
I wish. I'm a production guy, but yeah, no, I don't see like a gear button or anything to.
Oh, you know what? Mouse over the bottom. When you mouse over the very bottom, it's a very bottom, like on your screen, like it'd be right there. Let me move this over right there. So it'll see a disconnect. You'll see a phone, a camera, full screen, and a comment thing.
Okay, and which one of those buttons do you think will give me settings? Because the camera's just turning my feed off completely.
Oh,
it's trying to. You know what it's trying to do? It's trying to give you the feed from my. You
have to get rid of everything else.
My day-to-day professional setup.
Yeah, get rid of your Zoom, get rid of your vMix, and get rid of your OBS or any of the above, because it won't.
I don't have any of those. I don't have any of them.
Whatever
but somehow
something's going.
Yeah,
and we're doing that. We getting the other guy in?
Mr. Culture?
Mr. Culture?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you?
Welcome.
Okay, cool. Thank you for having me on.
Do you have a camera that you want to use, or is it going to be another dark spot?
No, just a dark spot for me. Thanks.
Okay. And you're an actual theist, correct?
Yes, I am a Roman Catholic specifically.
Okay, so you're not a Christian then. I'm kidding. Shots
fired.
Totally kidding. No, they're Christians.
I'm gonna step away for 5 seconds to grab a camera and see if I can make it work.
We can always get G-Man on that topic. Oh no, please don't.
So I'm always interested, and I always want to ask, as a Christian, and I assume that you've seen our show before, correct?
Actually, I was alerted to you. I've seen a video you've done, and it was the video you did on questions that Christians can't answer. And so I've seen some of that, but this is my first time actually watching the show. But I've been enjoying it. It's been a good show. I think it's interesting discussions and an interesting setup you have here. So kudos.
Well, thank you. If you think this is a good show tonight, I advise you please don't watch any of the some of the previous ones, because that would be
they've all been deleted anyways. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, we I'm just kidding. I think they're all good, but we have some very interesting people come on that believe some very interesting things.
Honestly, I can't say we had really a bad one yet. I mean, even the dumpster fires are good. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I don't think we really had a bad show. That's just my
everybody needs a dumpster fire every now and again.
You got to,
yeah,
right?
Unfortunately, this is going to be my second debate roulette without a dumpster fire, because I
don't know yet.
Tell that these two guys are sensible. They sound
fair enough.
No, I'll go crazy.
I want a Debbie.
I'm gonna go nuts.
Debate roulette?
But don't worry, I end every insult politely with like and subscribe.
Caitlin Chloe says, "Watch my episodes." Exactly. Watch the ones with Casey. There you go.
Oh well, hey, and listen, guys. I want to go ahead and tell you we have a very interesting show with Casey coming up mid-June. I was emailed from a gentleman who wrote a book about what if atheists committed worldwide terrorism in the name of atheism. So it's called hold on one second. I don't want to screw that up. But Jimmy, are you fixing you got your camera things sorted out? Or are you gonna?
I don't know if it's gonna work. I've been trying, but we can proceed if you want. I might need to. If I just hit refresh on this, will I come back in well enough?
You can try.
Yeah, okay, because I think that might be what I need to do here.
Go ahead, hit a 5.
Second. Yeah, sorry everybody.
Oh, you're fine. And that is going to be called. That book is called Mind Virus. It explores the question of whether international terrorism in the name of atheism could ever be possible. So that will be an interesting. There he is. That'll be an interesting talk too. Welcome, Mr. Atheist.
Look at that high tech setup he's got.
All right, I gotta figure out how to not hear myself.
Steve
twice.
has been man crushing hard tonight.
I'm just in a really good mood. I'm just in a really good mood tonight. I don't know why.
I don't either. I don't know if I like it though.
I know. I'm not sure I do either. Be honest.
Okay, Peter. Calm down, Peter.
Whatever.
Calm down, Peter. Okay, so
dumpster fire.
The topic at hand is: can you be good without God? And since we have somebody that's taking the position that you can't be, let's start with Mr. Culture.
All right, so
I don't want to be a dick,
time?
but can you give me 30 more seconds to fix my sound situation?
Sure.
Sorry, actually, he can start. I'll be able to hear.
Yeah, just let him start.
Okay, my bad. Sorry.
All right, so 5 minutes opening time, right?
3.
Yes, sir.
Just,
3 for your opening. Yeah, just kind of introduce yourself, and if you have a channel that you want to plug, anything like that, and state your position on the matter.
All right, just go.
Whenever you're ready.
Go ahead.
Well,
take it away.
Hi, yeah, I'm Pragmatic Culture. I have a small YouTube channel where I sometimes stream talking about politics and philosophy generally, and a Twitter where I'm a little more active these days because it takes much less effort. But I think I'd like to start with parsing the difference between acting morally and being good, because I think sometimes those things get confused just a little bit because colloquially we use them somewhat interchangeably. And what I would say is that as humans, it's not impossible for us to act moral without God necessarily, because I think we have the reasoning power to figure out what is moral, or as some would say, what is good, without necessarily knowing God and knowing Him. But the very nature of being good and being moral in itself requires God, because He is, to put it in sort of a Platonic sense, you could say He is goodness itself. He is morality itself. And it's sort of a weird answer to the Euthyphro question, you might say. And for those who aren't familiar with it, the Euthyphro question is sort of a philosophical quandary mentioned in one of the dialogues of Socrates, I think it is. And the question is posited: is something good because God says it is, which is divine command theory, or is something good without God having to say so, and God just sort of endorses the good thing? And the Catholic answer to that question, at least I can't say for the various Protestant sects necessarily, but the Catholic answer would be that there can be no good without God, because all goodness is just partaking in His more divine form. So it is just sort of trying to replicate what He is in a much higher level. and everything else that is good that we know is just imperfectly replicating that form. And so you could have people acting morally without God, but without God in the first place, there would be no moral, there would be no good to act, even if you can discover it now without him. And I'd say that's pretty much my position on it.
Okay, awesome. Jimmy, Mr. Atheist, welcome.
Yeah.
And this next 3 minutes is going to be all of yours.
Okay, and I'm going to mute my headset while I talk just because I'm getting so much repeat back and I don't know why.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me reset the clock. Dave, if we can you reset the countdown? There we go. Okay. Thank you, Dave. Now, Mr. Atheist, you're up.
So when addressing this question of whether or not we can be good without God, it seems like the argument I'm hearing from the other side, as it's being defined now, it's certainly exclusive to a God claim, meaning that if God exists, then no, we cannot. However, we haven't seen demonstration of the existence of this God, and all we can actually debate over any of these topics is what we know from our common sense of reality. And so far, nothing about what you and I have in common in regards to the theistic claim informs my morality. It is what makes us different. So we have to make the assumption that, I think how I want to word this. Unfortunately, I put most of my thoughts into my microphone for the last couple of minutes. But not only do we have a fundamental disagreement that we need God to be moral, but I will actually make the case that we need to omit God in every form that we've had presented to us so far, especially if we're talking about the Christian God, since you took the Catholic claim, to maintain morality in the modern day. Our morality and our philosophy has evolved time and time again as we've dismissed those things that were morally sound from God and figured out secular applications to biblical verses, the way we've gone and taken all of these things in the Bible and said, actually, that means this, actually, this means this. Apologetics in and of itself is using what we know or what we have learned to be moral and trying to come up with ways, and I'm talking about biblical apologetics, of course, come up with ways that fits into the Bible and how it wasn't actually the way it seemed. So not only do I not believe that we need God to be good, we actually need to dismiss everything we've learned about God and his morality to be able to make any kind of moral claim. And it is that very same system you use in your brain where you see in the Bible genocide commanded or anything commanded, and you figure out a way to reconcile it with how that doesn't feel right to you. The fact that you cannot literally take any biblical, or we can go with the Quran or any other religious device, that you can't take any of those words literally and apply them to yourself. And that's why, I mean, everyone has a different interpretation. That sense that you have has nothing to do with God, because it's, or at least any God we've seen described so far. But I do reject the premise that just by necessity, because God exists, we have to have him to be moral. And I would love to hear in his response what he thinks a world would look like then without God. And I dare you to take the Jordan Peterson route, but I'm just kidding. I'm trying to make this a dumpster fire as much as I can.
Thank you.
We appreciate that. Thank you. It means a lot to us.
Actually, I was just Steve and I have a messaging system that we use to go back and forth with each other, and I just sent a message over to him saying, why are these turning out to be so good? I expected to have some one of these debates at least to be just completely destroyed. I mean, everybody that we've had
at the
on so far
exact same time, I was sending it to him too. We literally said the exact same thing at the same time.
Sounds prepared. I mean, everybody that we've had so far is doing really well. So I'm impressed. I really am. But you know what that means, guys who are listening? That means that when we do have our dumpster fire, it will be a dumpster fire.
Shit, you have such a high bar for this dumpster fire, people. We expect blood.
Do not let me down. Do not let me down. Debbie, you need to get with it and play the bet roulette. Okay.
Yeah, look at Debbie.
I'm going to quick refresh just one more time. Sorry.
Sure. Pragmatic culture. The next 5 minutes is for you.
Cool. All right. So there's a lot to unpack in some of those statements. I think I'll try to first start with yes, my morality does presuppose, or at least the statements I made do presuppose an existence of God, and we could get into that in another debate. But I think it's not unreasonable to point out that using just philosophy alone, people like Plato and Aristotle had been able to reason for themselves that there was a one God. And that's largely what Christian theology and philosophy builds on, of the works of Plato and Aristotle. And so it's not impossible without something like the Bible to know of God and to know that there is this one objective standard for what is good. And I think to address real quickly some of your claims that the advances we've made morally have been because of an abandonment of God, I would disagree. I would say that's actually a growth in immorality, and that I think the modern sense of morality has sort of been perverted to something else. And so I don't think we disagree about like what has been a moral advancement. I think I think we would disagree there. But to get back to the main point, I think when we're talking about what has been good and what is good, you have to have an objective standard as to what is and isn't good. And you need God to fill that role as a necessary being, to use some Thomistic language, I guess. Because if you don't have an objective standard as to what is good and to what is bad, and it all becomes relative and it becomes a matter of opinion, then you don't actually have morality anymore. You just have opinion and you have feeling. But when you have an objective standard, then you can sort of go off of that and say, well, is this more good? Is this less good? And that's why we're able to come up with the standard of lesser of two evils, because there's something that's closer to the objective good and something that's farther away from it. As for individual acts that you say you could find in the Bible, that are they moral? Are they not moral? That would be something we'd have to go through instance by instance, and something we'd have to talk about in each circumstance, I think, because you could take a lot of things. For example, if we were to take the flood of Noah and how he destroyed the whole population of Earth besides Noah and his family. It was mentioned in the Bible previously that all those people they were destroying the earth, they were killing each other. Essentially, they were a race of genuinely evil people. And so God's flood was genuinely justice. It would be no different than, say, giving the death penalty to a murderer today. And just to give an example, but we could go instance by instance for each case. But on the whole, what I would be the Bible, excuse me, I'm getting off topic. But in terms of what we need for a good, we need God as that objective moral good. Otherwise, we're only taking pot shots with our opinion. And I think to answer your sort of final quandary about what is quandary, Jesus Christ, to answer your question about what a world without religion would look like, I think it would look fundamentally different. And I don't think Jordan Peterson is genuinely that far off in what he's saying, because I think one of the things religion does is obviously provide a level of group cohesion. But I think we do take for granted how much in modern times our morality has been based on the Christian metaphysic, is the way Jordan Peterson puts it. And I happen to like that wording of it. But I think that a lot of what we take is still based off of Christian morality. And a lot of what the world has in terms of like how we define tolerance and how we define what is right and wrong has been taken from and watered down to some extent of the puritanical Protestant sort of view of things. And now I have my sort of problem with that, but I think largely it's been a good thing. And I think by watering it down, we've done a good bit more harm than good to some extent. But if you, just to summarize briefly, if you don't have that objective standard, which needs to be God, I don't think you can have thank you. I don't think you can have any objective standard that is earthly. Otherwise, you could claim it's earthly and fallible. If you have this standard that is heavenly and divine, you know it's above man, and it gives man genuinely something to strive for and something that isn't corruptible and earthly. So without that standard, morality it loses all meaning. It simply becomes opinion, and you don't have good, you just have feeling at that point. And so you need to have God as that one standard of good and morality. And I'll finish up there.
Okay. And I'm gonna go ahead and say, David, I think we're gonna go back to the 15-minute clock for the discussion. It seems like 10 minutes is not going to be enough for this round.
Good call. Good call.
Mr. Atheist, go ahead. We're getting ready to start the first 5 minutes right now for Mr. Atheist, and then we'll be on the second. Mr. Atheist, dared pragmatic culture not to go to the Jordan Peterson route. He did. So, Mr. Atheist, what say you?
Welcome to the world of circular reasoning. You piece. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to really go that. Everyone says dumpster fire. I'm sure you're a very nice guy, and we could be great friends. You believe that morals come from God because you believe in God.
Yes.
There isn't really a way for you to consider. Oh no, I don't need you to confirm it for me. I was listening. I'm just. I don't really. There is no way for you to then argue or discover for yourself the idea that maybe that isn't the case, because even if you presumably left your religion and claimed that you no longer believed in God, your old self from the past with a time machine could come forward and make the same argument that even though you're moral, that's sourced with God. So you have what you've created is this somewhat disprovable proposition. Now allow me to disprove it. As far as I'm going to go one at a time with the points that you made. So the acts of evil, and you also talked about how we would disagree with the moral and what is moral and immoral, and whether or not we've become more moral or immoral, and that maybe you would be on the other side. Yes, we do disagree, and that's because our starting points are different. My starting point are these beautiful frontal. Of course, right now when I need it, I can't think of the part of the brain, but it's right at the front. It allows us to reason it out, and it allows us to figure things out. In addition to that, we have evolved a sense of morality. It wasn't perfect, and that is shown by the first 200,000 years or so of Homo sapiens existence. But because of this brain that's so capable of reasoning, we are able to. I just lost part of my some audio. Can everyone still hear me? We're still good?
Yeah, we can start.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Good.
We have that ability to reason past and improve all the time. And in a system where you did have those two things, what you would see is barbaricism, or whatever the correct term is for it, be a starting point where these sort of very capitalistic Margaret Thatcher societies, as Christopher Hitchens would have referred to, or no, Dawkins would have referred to it as, where the strongest would have won out. But as our reasoning starts to get better, you would see a moral evolution. And we have seen that in a system where God is the ultimate moral authority. First of all, as he comes to earth and drops these truth moral bombs, we would actually see things that are revolutionary. Even Jesus Christ, where people say he was ahead of his time, he was ahead of his time with about 1,000 other people on those corners that were street preachers. So you're talking about, when you have these two models, which one appears more likely? The one that reflects history, that allows evolution to evolve with the basis that we start. I've got so much to say in this 2 minutes, so I'm going to move on to the next thing. Or this one that comes from a God that you have to do mental backflips to produce the apologetics that make the terrible things he did remotely okay. As far as an objective starting point, I don't need an objective starting point. I think one might exist, but what matters is that we come to an agreement using those beautiful brains we have that no other mammal currently has the ability to utilize in that way, to come up with a starting point. Once you have your starting point, so Matt Dillahunty would call it the well-being of humans, or Sam Harris would say the same thing. Anything based on that is an objective morality, as it is objective to the stated goal. But again, as far as your actual proposition of God couldn't exist for myself to be an atheist, or God has to exist even as an atheist for me to be moral, or for anyone to be moral, it is only unprovable as a statement, but again, produce for me why it is that it seems to follow every other evolutionary thing we know about more closely than this profound God that showed up and changed the world. Because what I see when I read the Bible, and I've read it many times very thoroughly, is a group of people who already felt certain ways about certain people, and the ones that they disliked, they used a God to justify murdering them or inhibiting them in some way. You can say that we're going to disagree on whether or not we threw it away, but I can tell you that based on biblical morals, a number of people who were in abusive marriages, who now actually have the option to divorce and feel like that's not a terrible thing, are very thankful that we aren't following silly guidances like the Bible from an era that really just took whatever the dudes with the most power had and made that the word for all the people around. It just, your
10
argument,
seconds.
it sucks, man. I hate you, and I hate. No, I'm kidding again. I wanted to start the dumpster fire. You're a sweet guy.
Oh man,
You've been very
I
nice so
excited
far.
there for a second. I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like, oh yes, finally. Okay, so he doesn't hate you, pragmatic culture, but
No,
he
I
does
don't.
not agree with your.
And
But the
makes
rest
sense.
of us.
I'm trying to
So,
track down that Steve McRae porno tape right now.
Oh, why?
First of all,
Why
it's
would
on
you do that to
beta,
yourself?
so they don't even exist. Betamax, how are you going to find one? And he's going to go, what's beta?
Why would you do that? To
I know what
yourself?
Betamax is, son.
No, it
Oh,
doesn't. There's no
man.
such thing. We're just kidding.
Okay, so David, we need to go back to the another. We got another round of 5-minute questions. So
We're
we need
doing
to
3
pop-
rounds of 5 minutes?
Two. You did the first
Haven't I
round
already
you did was
done
3
2
minutes.
That's an introduction.
That's the-
That was just
Oh.
an introduction.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Who you
Okay,
are,
okay,
why
I
you
got
give a
it.
shit about you, why the fuck we care about your opinion, that kind of stuff, you know.
I don't
Unless
think I
and I'll tell you
introduced
what,
any of
guys,
those things. That's fine.
I'll tell you what, guys, if you want, because I think it may be more beneficial in this stance. But if you guys want to go ahead and get into the discussion part of it, and we'll just go a little bit longer in the discussion part, we can add that 10 minutes that we're not going to do with you doing a back and forth into that. That's completely up to you two.
I'd like to
I'm cool.
give I was actually going to suggest giving the other guy 60 seconds to set up his argument for the discussion, because from my end, I have his point of view. I'm looking to get something a little more hard to go after rather than just a looping infallible argument. I don't
Okay,
mean
so
that in a
we'll
mean
just-
way. So
Yeah.
I'd love to give
Yeah,
you
No,
a
no,
little
no.
bit
Yeah,
of time.
I understand. I can and I'd happily clarify, because I think I made I might have misspoken to make it seem circular when I didn't mean it to.
Okay, so we'll let you. We'll give this 5 minutes then, and then if Mr. Atheist feels like he's ready to go into it, then we'll do that. If not, he can have his last 5 minutes too. You just both seem like you're ready to talk it out. So go ahead and take this 5 minutes and clarify whatever you need to, sir.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I don't think I'll need the 5 minutes, so we can add on that time to the discussion if we can. But just to clarify, when I was talking about God being good and there being no good without God, I didn't make it mean to make it seem like the presuppositional, oh, when you're acting good, you're really just following God's will, even though you don't know it. That's not what I meant. I was just saying that the universe as it exists, not just good in itself, but everything in essence couldn't exist without God. And just like the act of being good is just one of those many facets that couldn't exist without him. And yes, it does rely on, in the argument I was making, a presupposition that God does exist. And we could certainly get to that at some point in this debate, as it is sort of a part of it. But I don't think it requires the Bible to necessarily get into it and dropping, like, as you said, like these revelation bombs. I think, again, people like Aristotle and Plato were able to reason out for themselves that there really would only need to be one God, one objective standard for good, for there to be good. And they didn't really need revelation because they didn't really have contact with the Jews at that time. Really, obviously, there was some back and forth, but it didn't really influence their philosophy, even if they did know of the Hebrew writings, and they were before Christ, obviously, as well. And so I hope that clarifies it. I think we can get right into the discussion now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good to jump into the discussion.
Okay. Since he just clarified, we'll shoot it over to you to respond to that, and then you guys can just have a open back and forth.
Yeah, so everything, it's funny because your argument either is infallible or it's meaningless. And again, I don't mean that as harshly as it sounds, but that's really what it comes down to. Because if everything exists because of God, this still is a looping belief set in the establishment, as though we're agreeing that God exists in the first place. But if everything exists because of God, therefore all things that are good exist because of God out of necessity, then everything else, all things that are bad, all things that are evil, exist out of necessity of because of God. So we could have this exact same debate without changing a single part of your argument, except for exchanging good for evil. And now evil is only necessary because of God, which actually I could see myself sympathizing with, but not literally. As far as your descriptions of Aristotle and Plato, Boy, I really hope that when people look back at me in 500 years and silly things I've said or done or actions I've taken, they don't hold me to the standard of what is established to be true in that 500 years. So when people take on these names, like, look at these people, they were the brilliant men of their time, and the philosophy that they contributed, it still meanwhile introduced the scientific method 200 years prior, and let's actually see if they come to those same conclusions. Let's see if the assets that existed for them, like the assets that existed for me as a child, where I didn't have access to anything besides my Mormon fundamental upbringing, if those assets, when available to them, despite them being reasonable people, if they would come to the same conclusion. So you're talking about a hypothetical situation of me holding in regard these super intelligent people as though they are super intelligent today, but if they showed up with today's standards, I'd whoop them in a debate too. Anyway, not to imply that I've whooped you, maybe a little bit. There was.
Let's let him respond to those.
I'll go
to those two.
Yeah,
first, and then
go ahead.
Okay, responding to the Aristotle-Plato thing briefly, I think their works, philosophically speaking, would largely be untouched by the scientific advancements made today. And I think that's sort of one of the sad conflations of the new atheism, to make God a question of sort of empirics in some sense, because God really isn't an empirical question. He's a philosophical question. He's a question more, if you wanted to give him a specific category of philosophy, you might say mostly he's a question of metaphysical reality. And I think if you were to bring back Plato and Aristotle, I think they'd largely be disgusted by the movement that philosophy has taken. There's some quote that somebody once said that I don't know who, but I loved it. And it was that philosophy died with the Greeks, which I found to be very true, because even though I find other modern philosophers interesting, I think the fundamental proofs that Aristotle and Plato set out about are still ones we use very much today to justify our actions today as something that's morally good and something morally wrong. We still use formal Aristotelian logic to this day in discussions of philosophy and things like that. And so I do largely think that if you were to bring them here today and have the same discussion, I think they would remain pretty solid. And I can't say you would fare as well as you think you would necessarily. But also, what was your second point? Just to refresh myself real quick.
We talked
if
about.
You want to respond to that, that's fine too.
Yeah. But just to give you, since I did do two at that time, it was everything that exists is by God, so therefore everything good that exists is by God.
Oh yes, and the evil. Okay, so just to respond to that briefly, evil is a unique phenomena to human beings because only human beings are conscious actors, of course, and only we can act with some sort of morality. The wolf doesn't, when it kills a deer, that's not a moral action. It's just responding to stimuli and certain functions going on in its brain. The wolf killing the deer isn't a moral action. And so
Indeed,
when humans act
more. Mm-hmm. No, I was just going to agree with you that you're right, that morality is subjective to the individuals intelligent enough to participate in it. Anyway, go ahead on your objective morality for your subjective morality argument you just made.
Well, see, we are not wolves. The wolf doesn't. We don't respond to only stimuli. We are not beings that
Agreed.
only respond to other things. We are beings that can choose how to respond to certain stimuli. We are not particles that just transfer momentum. And so when we do things, evil is something that's unique to us. And just to respond to your original point, when we act with evil or when we act badly, we're not acting we're not acting in accordance with God's will per se. We're not acting in accordance with what he naturally set up. In fact, we are deviating from that. And so even though, of course, God is still with us and he's trying to guide us in different actions and such and away from these things, we are choosing to ignore him when we act with evil in the same way that Satan did in the fall. Satan's fall was very much an act of pride, in that even though he knew the whole of God's plan and he knew what he was planning on doing with humanity and how he was planning to go about and set them up as his perfect little creations there on earth in the Garden of Eden. And even though Satan knew damn well that God was the being and that he's just a creation himself, he still rebelled and chose to separate himself from God, thus creating evil itself and this first act. And so this
So are you
separation
saying-
from God is what creates evil.
Are you saying, and this is a question, not a straw man, I am asking if this is basically just an extension of, which are you saying, that evil actually exists as its own separate form, but is something that exists inside the universe, not sourced by God? Or are you saying that it is the absence of good, as some people will make the argument and lie and say Albert Einstein said?
Well, I don't, I don't attribute the quote to Albert Einstein, but I would say yes, it is the absence of God, not necessarily the absence of his presence in the universe, but our choosing specifically, like the created's choice to ignore that presence. So it's not like he's really there. We just sort of choose to ignore him, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. So this seems to fall apart because we've now established and somewhat agreed that morality, as far as the life forms we've encountered, is really only something to consider between humans. So we agree about the subjective nature when considering all of the universe. We disagree that our source of morality is objective. I mean, you can't say that a wolf doesn't have a moral action and say it's not subjective. Whether or not it's a broadly subjective, that's still what it is. It sounded like you were about to disagree, so please do if you want me to not go further with that.
Well, I don't think I'm quite understanding what you mean when I say it's subjective between the people interacting. Like, I think obviously there's different degrees to which people can act correctly and act not correctly. For example, if you were given the choice, but like if some weird robbers entered the house and held a mother by gunpoint saying, kill like one of your two sons or else we'll kill you, them, and your husband or something like that. And she has to shoot one of her sons to save the other and, you know, save the rest of the family. Obviously, that's not a good thing, but it's if she's saving the rest of her family.
No, I'm sorry, not obviously. Not obviously, because you thought through it and you assessed it. It isn't just an obvious evident fact. In fact, if that were an obvious evident fact and a clear consideration of morality, I feel like that specific example would have been presented in your, we're going to go with your specific book of morality, and not all of these silly, stupid things like God expressing how jealous he is and that you need to spend a day with him, and all of these things that are really meaningless, especially the entire book's full of just genealogy. None of these are very profound lessons we are learning. So it's not readily obvious. It's something that you think through. It might feel obvious to us, but it is a thought experiment. And there are lots of thought experiments to show that. But when I was talking about subjective, I was talking about the starting line that humans and morality is what we need to assess. That said, we do still punish animals as though they've committed a moral act. We certainly, Harambe died because of the thing we were worried he was going to do, because we held him to a standard of the life of that child being more important than his life, even just the danger to that child being more important than his life. So we do subject animals to our moral systems all the time because we think through it and because we start at a place of human well-being is what matters overall most. And I can logically come to all of those conclusions about when it's appropriate to kill, when it's appropriate to do these things that in other situations are subjectively immoral. I can't come up with subjective examples of things in the Bible that were considered moral. I can't think of a subjective example of justified moral genocide when I put my secular mind as opposed to my biblical mind toward it.
Okay, so just to respond briefly to sort of the 2 points I think you made. The first point being, at least in terms of the Catholic perspective, our morality isn't wholly derived just from the Bible, because as you mentioned, the Bible is a mishmash of many different things and many different stories. I can.
Okay, but is it all from God?
Well, hold on. What is what all from God? Just to clarify.
You just said that morality doesn't all come from the Bible. You said it comes. It's not all exclusively from there. Is wherever everything comes from still sourced by God, or am I capable of reasoning through a moral situation without considering God at all?
Oh,
or
you
talking
can
to
reason
God or
through
taking
things.
some.
You can reason through
Is there
things
an echo, or is
certainly
it just
without.
me? Do you guys
I
hear the
hear
echo? Okay.
Oh
Is
yeah, I
there
hear
a
it too.
way we can try to get rid of that, because I think it's affecting people?
I don't think it's on my end because I have the video.
It's not mine. I was muted.
I don't hear Nico.
I heard bad.
I just muted my mic and I still heard the echo.
Yeah, the problem is I can't hear what either one of you are saying over the echo, and I know the live feed can't either. If I can't.
Oh, is it that loud for you guys?
Well, it's gone now. Okay, go ahead, continue. Sorry.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Yeah, so you can reason through things without the consideration of God necessarily, but I think in the background, like with everything, again, my argument does presuppose that God exists and that everything is still sourced from him. So yes, everything is still sourced from him. Morality still comes from him because he set out the rules of reason and logic that we're currently all using, and he set forth all these different things. So it's still sourced from him, even if it's not directly all from the Bible. Like I said, the Catholic Church largely borrows from Plato and Aristotle and some other ancient Greeks as well. Some of the Neoplatonists, I can't think of their names off the top of my head, and people like St. Thomas and some medieval philosophers.
Could you think of a presupposed argument that you're basing this on that you have as a demonstrated fact, not something that is a faith claim?
Well, I could certainly go about the proofs laid out by St. Thomas Aquinas and prove the existence of God using something like that, if you wanted, because I wouldn't say God is solely a faith claim. I would say St. Thomas, in some sense, completes the objection of can you prove God? And I think he does that quite well. But of course, that might be...
We wouldn't need a presupposition that supposes to prove, which I would want to start the whole debate over if we were switching to clearly just that point. But I'm talking about a presupposition that proves that God is a loving God who interacts with us, gives us our morals, and is actively influencing our morality. Because my presupposition, for example, was that evolution has taken place and that our brains have, and these are demonstrated facts. These are things that I have all the actual evidence in the world and not word games and I mean, word games is really what it comes down to. Word games and apologetics was the word I was looking for. I have all of the evidence to show us that our brains have evolved and that the parts of our brains that are different from other mammals are where we do that reasoning and why we're able to reason into a higher form of morality. If I feel like if you can't give me, we both presuppose something, I don't know how you can claim to even be a part of this debate, frankly, if you can't presuppose something that doesn't require a large leap of faith when that immediately changes the grounding we are both coming from.
Well, I think you and I are essentially starting from different points because we have a different essential metaphysic. I think you're coming at this from a largely materialist worldview, whereas I'm sitting here as a dualist, someone who both believes in the material, believes in evolution, believes in the natural processes and the sciences as I see them.
Right.
But there is also a higher plane, a spiritual plane that involves metaphysics and philosophy.
That's beautiful, though, because then we've now identified a place that we both in common believe. And I believe that in that natural world that you said you believe in those natural processes that exist, that all of the things we need to know about morality are already apparent and we can actually source those things. So all you would need to show me is why I am wrong. That in both of these things that we believe in, that there is something that is absent that by necessity needs a metaphysical understanding. I'm almost inviting you to give me some kind of God of the gaps argument that we can say that gap can't be filled.
So sure, I guess to give an example real quick, what does science say about murder being wrong? Why, according to the natural processes and the material world around us, is murder wrong?
Why do you assume that science would be the only thing that is a natural? If you want a natural materialistic world explanation of that, I certainly can give you that. If you're asking me specifically to cite a scientific theory that expresses murder is wrong, I think you know by the way you ask the question that the question is dishonest. But would you like a materialistic explanation of why murder is wrong?
Yeah, sure. Give me the materialist answer as to why murder is wrong. That's what I was asking, really.
Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. As long as we can get to what you mean. First of all, do you believe in the process of evolution and that it is a fact that has been demonstrated?
Sure.
Or even are you skeptical, but you think that it's fine? Okay.
No, yeah.
Are you familiar with the driving force of evolution via natural selection?
Yeah.
For a population to survive, what would be better for a population? A population that largely doesn't murder each other and can reason through how to best support each other and how to best take care of each other and how to best develop things like medications to solve those problems that are harming the population, and a population that has faced extinction before to emerge out of it resourceful in ways that it does in multiplicity, not at the point of the individual. Or would natural selection favor a species that just kills the fuck out of itself?
Okay, but why would I want that population to survive? Why is that a good thing?
Because you're a part of it. Good and bad are subjective terms. It's good if your starting point is the well-being of humankind. And that's my starting point. The well-being of humankind, because I am a human. I'm very speciesist, if you will.
Sure, I get that, but why should you be? Why is the well-being of human beings so important? Why prioritize us as just a thinking animal?
Do you feel at all that your existence is important to you? That you existing is important? Yeah. So why do you need anything beyond that?
To the larger, because it's just my feelings. It doesn't say anything about whether it actually is important.
You nailed it. It's your feelings. You developed these feelings through evolution, through the development of our brain that helped us in ways time. And by the way, our species or our ancestors failed at this over and over again. There's a reason why you don't see Neanderthal running around. There's a reason why you don't see a number of species, that 99% of species have gone extinct, because most of them sucked at this. But we've been really good at it. And so we talk about this brain that is largely different than other mammals. We talk about this source of morality that does seem peculiar to us, even though it is clear that animals amongst themselves do have morals too, at least a moral code or some sort of rules and sets where they look out for each other and have communities and all kinds of things that are very basic, primitive forms of what we do. It is as simple as that same animalistic drive that is running the fox is what's running us, but we're much smarter than a goddamn fox. That's it.
Okay,
I mean, it doesn't have to be so complicated. And the why is because you give a shit.
Well, it absolutely does have to be more complicated than that, because I'm not into this sort of height thing where morality is just feelings. Just because I feel that I want to survive and that I want to reproduce my genes, that doesn't actually make it right. If we're just making morality feelings, then me feeling that murder is wrong because I myself don't want to be murdered isn't actually a reason. It is, again, just a feeling. It's not an actual it's not actually justifying why I myself shouldn't be murdered, except that I feel that way. But if somebody who is stronger than me and wants my resources comes up to me and says, why should I spare you and not take your resources? If I say to him, oh, I feel like I want to live and keep my resources, then that's not really a good answer to him. But if I say, oh, we have an objective God above us and we have objective codes as to what is morally good and what is morally bad, then he might not abide by those laws, but at least it's more convincing than just, I don't want to feel that way. And I'd argue that it's a more truthful claim than just saying I feel that way, therefore it should be that way. Because you're trying to close the is-ought gap with feeling, and it's just not doing it for me.
Yeah, which is fine. Doing it for you doesn't actually make you right or wrong. But I agree that feelings aren't by themselves evidence to anything. When we talk about evolution, evolution favors a population, and evolution favors the not the individual. It doesn't favor the individual. When we talk about if this person comes in with a God morality, he might be defiant of the logical conclusion that he could take my resources away from me because he's bigger than me. That would be a really embarrassing argument if, say, history was filled with big religious people taking resources away from people who are inferior to them. But thank God that doesn't exist.
I think this is sort of a conflation of two different things here, because obviously people use religion to justify a lot of atrocities. That doesn't actually mean that those religions themselves justify those atrocities. I think we could get, but that's a different argument, though. So
we're talking about population morality, we're still talking about large amounts of people. We're not talking about just the Hitler. We're talking about every soldier that wore his belt with "God be with us" on it. We're not talking about just one evil person. We're talking about as a population. And in fact, those populations that have embraced secular, humanist, more ways of life tend to be more peaceful, happier places. Those who come up with religion tend to figure out why they can justify treating like shit anyone they disagree with.
I disagree with that historical analysis there, and I think there's a little bit of correlation, not causation, going on in that argument, because I think there's other reasons
because you're religious. You must.
Well, I mean, besides that, I think you could look at, say, some of the higher standards of living and the achievement of more secular societies and attribute those to other things per se, but that's for a completely different discussion on a completely different topic. But again,
of course, that's
in terms
what you believe. Yes. Obviously, that's what you would.
I mean, if you want me to say it outright, I think I might just refer you to guys like the alt-type who have a more racialist explanation for it, which I don't necessarily buy into wholeheartedly, but I think there's a lot of merit to arguments like that. But I'm not just defending this on the basis of that, oh, it can't not be God. It can't be, it can be literally anything else, but it can't be God holding people back. What I'm saying is that at the end of the day, you haven't given me an actual reason to care about what populations do and what the flow of evolution is. By your reasoning, there's nothing actually wrong with, say, by your reasoning, there is something wrong, but there's nothing actually morally wrong about what somebody like a Ted Kaczynski did and what anarcho-primitivists want, because according to you, it's just feelings that evolution should continue and that society should progress in the way it has. But Ted Kaczynski disagrees completely. And if all you're saying is that
you are incorrect in all of your premises, and I would be very cautious in the future as you start with according to your point of view, because I already addressed where the actual starting point for a morality for us that has been the most effective as presented to us by evolution, or as worked out for us because we evolved these wonderful brains, and that is the well-being of human beings.
I can't honestly say. I don't think that's the moral starting point that people have started with, though. I think that's become the moral starting point that people have given to themselves over the last, say, century or so as we've become more secular in this last century. But it certainly hasn't been the moral starting point of human history at all, and especially not Europe within the last half of millennia, because clearly the moral starting point there is Christianity by far.
Yes, in the worst times for science and humanity, the starting points of Christianity overwhelmed, because that is a system that starts with programming at birth, overwhelmed our natural instincts to take care of well-being, because it prevented us from having the conversation of what that meant and developing meaningful philosophy. I will give you the full last 20 seconds because I know I talk a lot.
I would just not say that it was the worst period in human history at all. And I think we've come upon what is at least certainly not the materially worst part of human history, but certainly the most spiritually and philosophically devoid. And I think that's coming through in how horribly people feel and how horribly people actually live their lives nowadays in terms of spiritual life.
Yay.
You did it. I hate you. I hate you. Like and subscribe. No, I'm just kidding. Let's be nice.
Like and subscribe. Go full Spanish Inquisition now.
Back on to
let's do this a regular thing. If I can just kind of real quickly, I know this is running real long and everybody's tired. I just want to quickly address a few things while you guys are here. So, and nothing major. One, please remind me of your name again. Not you, Mr. Atheist. Was it the other guy? Pragmatic. Okay, pragmatic. I'm sorry.
He calls me Daddy.
He does now. You mentioned the Euthyphro dilemma, and you just want to know that was actually in Plato's dialogue in Euthyphro, where Socrates actually asked Euthyphro, is it pious to be loved by the gods, or is it more pious is it pious because they are loved by the gods, right? So basically, that's where it came from. But anyways, my question to you is this. You posit by some kind of metaphysical or ontological necessity that if objective morality exists, it must be by a deity. Why is that the case? Because I have yet to, and I've asked this to a lot of theists, I've yet to have one theist tell me, and I accept objective morality. I have no problem with objective morality existing. I just tend to error theory, which means that moral propositions are false, but but I'm fine with objective morality existing. But can you tell me why, by logical necessity, that if objective morals exist, which I think a lot of people do realize that by now they do exist, but why do you need a God for that? Why can't you ground it in anything? And I don't want to go into relativism or subjectivism. I'm just asking you, if you are going by strictly objective morality, such that if I want to do this, I ought to do that, why does that have to be dependent metaphysically by necessity on a deity? That's my question.
Sure, that's a good question. And to start up, first off, why you couldn't have something, I'm not going to be the best at answering this simply because I'm not well tuned in this specific argument. I'd actually refer you to someone like, if you wanted to delve into the weirder portions of, say, like Catholic Twitter, guys like Boethius and Classical Theist would be a bit better at this. But to give a sort of simplified answer.
Thomist, by the way. Classical Theist is Thomist.
Yeah, and
he'll be on. He's coming on eventually. So,
oh, excellent. Yeah, he's a very smart dude. I've enjoyed following him. So to give a simplified sort of
okay,
answer.
we have to agree to disagree on that one at this point, but that's okay.
Sure.
Anyway,
sorry,
Jordan.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just kidding.
So go ahead, please. I don't mean to interrupt you. I am curious about this question. Like I said, I have not yet anybody give me a metaphysical necessity for grounding it in God.
Yeah. Well, obviously, it couldn't be something earthly based because everything in the material world is fallible and imperfect, and you're never going to have something objective come out of the material world because I don't think you can point to anything here that is perfect in any sense of it. Everything here dies or is off in some minor inflection, no matter how perfect we try to make it. And we have scientific instruments now that work in approximations because we know that we'll never actually get perfection. And so obviously that limits it from the material world. Now to get into why sorry, go ahead.
I just want to make sure I don't want to misquote you and I don't want to stop you midstream, but you're saying there's no such thing as even a moral fact? An objective fact, not just an objective moral, but there's no objective facts at all. Like 1 + 1 is not an objective fact. It's dependent or contingent upon something else.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that you can't have perfection in this world. Like obviously 1 + 1 is 2, but that's really not something of the material world. Math, for the most part, when you get into stuff like that, is an abstraction. And so things can be perfect in the abstract because they're not bound by the material. And so you can have objective facts because a lot of times they don't take on necessarily material underpinnings unless, you're talking, because like even obviously gravity exists and gravities are going to function differently in different areas because of certain laws. But even those laws are sort of rough approximations, like the exact acceleration of an object towards Earth at roughly like 10 meters per second, or if you want to get more specific, 9.8 something meters per second. Even that's still a rough rough approximation. It's not exactly 9.8 meters per second.
But objective doesn't mean perfection. It just means non-subjective, meaning that regardless if somebody has an opinion on something, it is still a fact. If Mr. Atheist said, "Hey, Steve, I don't believe 1 + 1 = 2," I'll say, "Okay, fine. You're an idiot. You're a mathematical moron." But it doesn't change the objective fact that 1 + 1 = 2, right? It's not contingent upon him agreeing with that or not. It's objective. And by the way, please tell me you agree, Mr. Atheist, that 1 + 1 = 2. I want to make sure you do.
Yes, of
right?
course. I'm not.
Well,
I'm not in the
approach
denying
the question of 1 + 1 = 2
when you have the
from the
limit
moral
of the
substrate. The mythology comes across as.
We'll continue this another time.
We're going to have you both.
Sure. No, I'm quite happy with the Peterson bashing because I don't think he does the best cases for God all the time, and I think he's very much still discovering his own metaphysics. So I get annoyed when he tries to proselytize about it sometimes.
He's a self-defined fraud.
He gets like 1 or 2 things right, but I don't know. I'm not a big Peterson fan, but he's been doing it a long time. He is educated. I mean, he's a well-educated man. I just think he goes off on extreme, weirdly strange tangents. I've listened to him quite a few times explain things, and I'm like, what the fuck is he talking about? And it's not just because I don't. It's what?
Sometime?
Yeah.
I'm asking both you guys if they're interested in coming back on.
Oh yeah, absolutely, definitely.
So, pragmatic culture. Since you came through the Discord, just message the top non-sequitur at your contact information. I've got Mr. Atheist, so just message me your contact information, and we'll settle out a date and do an entire show over it. I think that would be interesting. That'll give you guys.
You know
time to
what?
prepare and
How
all
about,
that.
how about we get Richard Carrier for it? I've already asked him. He wants to talk about objective morality. He said he'd come back on, be happy to.
Okay. Well,
And have that
Am I
come on
doing
too.
2 against 1 in this scenario, or who do I have on my side?
No. Actually, Richard Carrier, he accepts objective morality. Actually,
Uh,
but I mean,
we should get Richard for something. I'm talking about having these two back on to have this conversation again. No.
Okay,
But where they can go in more detail because they were just getting to the tip of, I think, the conversation when the time ran out. So I think there's a lot more there that we can suss through.
I have a history of teasing the tip. I'm sorry, guys.
No, it was an excellent discussion. I was happy.
This is what I had to put up with when I went on his show. By the way,
my face is turning red, isn't it? Okay. I bless you.
This is me tame.
I bless
I
you.
do.
Well,
you have no idea,
then.
Kyle. Yeah, you have no idea, Kyle.
That's
Trust me.
I look forward to next Sunday then.
Hell yeah.
Oh yes. So I'll tell you what. Here's what we'll do to close out. I'm gonna let Pragmatic Culture. You plug your channel and what you got coming up. Then we'll go to Friendly Eight. I can't even think. We'll go to Mr. Tip next, and that will be how we close out the show. Okay. Pragmatic Culture. Go ahead.
Mr. Tip.
Sure. Thank you guys for having me on again. It was a great fun and a good discussion. I have a small YouTube channel where I stream occasionally, try to get it something done once a month, although falls off with job and school and whatnot. But you can find me on Twitter where I'm shit posting a little bit more often because it takes less effort. So yeah, thank you guys again.
No, thank you. Okay.
Sweet.
Your go.
All right. I am Pragmatic Theist's best friend, Jimmy. No, I'm Mr. I hope we become best friends. I'm Mr. Atheist. I have a Thursday show called Dear Mr. Atheist where we answer the questions that are posed to theists time and time again. And I have a Sunday show called Sunday Mass, which Steve McRae was just on. And Kyle, alongside Logic and Eric Murphy, will be showing up next Sunday. So check that out. I'm also on Twitter at Dear Mr. Atheist. And I think and I'm on Pornhub at Dear Mr. Atheist. No, I'm kidding.
I thought it would be
maybe.
Sunday Mass.
Oh, Mass stands for Mr. Atheist Says Shit, and it's just terribly
sure,
sacrilegious, so I loved it.
Sure, that's what it means. Sure, that's what it means.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you once again. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
We're gonna see you guys.
Thank you both
on
of you guys.
Tuesday. At and you both can stay in right now if we want. You don't have to close it yet. And that way nobody will freeze.
Cool.
So we'll see everybody out there here on Tuesday at 7:00 for a history show, and then right after that, Steve and I will. Yeah, there we go. Oh, look at you. For a history show, and then on coins, and then we will. Steve and I will have our much anticipated debate. I'm just kidding.
Discussion.
Debate. Yeah, it's a discussion. We will be joined by a very special individual. Many of you out there know him. His name is Ozzy. Very smart guy, and we will be having a discussion on is doubt a virtue. So, which it is.
And tomorrow, okay. I was gonna say tomorrow. Take off tomorrow, guys. Get rid of the internet. Unplug everything. Enjoy your time with your friends and family, and the people that have died for this great country.
Live a little.
Recognize them.
Okay, I have no creative sign-off message tonight, so just good night.